across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
There you are. Good evening and welcome to the Political Asylum right here on Talk. I am your host, Kevin O'Sullivan, and I'll be with you all the way to 10 o'clock. Stand by for 3 powerhouse hours of news, views and topical debate. Get involved. Get on the phone and call me on 0344 499 1000 or WhatsApp voice note me on the same number, and I guarantee I'll play your message out. That's 0344 499 1000. Big night, we got to talk. Now, it is Wednesday, July the 23rd. Here's what's coming up. The shame of Essex police as they admit they escorted left-wing thugs into the heart of the asylum seeker hotel protest in Epping, but the county's top cop refuses to resign, and Chief Constable Ben Julian Harrington insists that cops did not drive the refugees welcome agitators to the demo. They drove them away, he said. Is he telling the truth or is he lying? Although he doesn't seem to realise it, this woke Rosa, who thinks that hate crime is the scourge of the nation, may not last in his exalted role for long. Surely, for the sake of unbiased, impartial policing, Mr Harrington has to go. 0344 499 1000. Meanwhile, I'll take you on a guided tour of London's latest luxury migrant hotel in posh Canary Wharf. The Britannia Hotel, restaurants, bars, swimming pools, sauna, 400 quid a night before they closed it to the public. Free to the foreigners who now live there at taxpayers' expense. We're paying for this. You'll have a look at this hotel. You won't believe it. 0344 499 1000. And as a country under siege spirals into nationwide unrest, Keir's crap cabinet meets and concludes that the government must repair the social fabric or risk a repeat of last summer's riots. Well, Keir and you lot, who destroyed the social fabric? It was two tiers gormless government, wasn't it? 0344 499 1000. Talking of which, the ludicrous Angela Rayner now declares we must tackle the profound impact of migration. Bit late now, Ange. Why not turn the boats round and stop letting illegal foreigners into Britain to be showered with multi-billion-pound generosity by politicians who have no idea the powder keg they are creating? 0344 499 1000. In other news, more kids punished for their patriotism as a school puts dozens of pupils into isolation for daring to wear Union Jacks on what teachers called Culture Day, after a 12-year-old girl was banned from her school for donning a Union Jack dress last week. What's going on here? Why aren't kids allowed to wear the national flag? 0344 499 1000. Plus, the resident doctors, formerly known as junior doctors, will go on a 5-day strike on Friday. And while they wave their placards on the picket lines, patients will die. Shouldn't front-line medical workers be barred from walking out and putting lives at risk? Is any industrial action worth killing people for? 0344 499 1000. Because these militant medics, they'll go, oh no, patient safety isn't compromised. Of course it is. You can't have thousands of doctors walking out of hospitals without patient safety being compromised. In other words, patients will die. We're allowing people to die on the altar of industrial action. If they're going to behave like this, surely they must be banned from walking out in the future. 0344 499 1000. Also tonight, the furious rock fans all shook up by the Elvis Experience show that was less 3D avatar, less hologram and more cheapo nonsense. As one pensioner yelled his disdain, he was physically carried out of the venue and the entire event descended into chaos. And finally, it's all over for Meghan, Harry and Netflix as the streaming giant officially pulls the plug on the dismal duo's $100 million TV deal that promised so much but produce so little. What next for the big spending couple now that their cash cow has run out? 03444991000. Lady C joins me later to discuss the Sussex's money disaster and the financial trouble ahead. All that and so much more, so don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Wednesday night together, and we've got a hell of a show. We've got so much to get through tonight, and I'm very pleased that for the first hour I will be joined by the excellent international editor of talkTV, the brilliant Isabel Oakeshott. Welcome, Isabel.
Good evening, Kev. Where are we beginning this evening?
I hardly know where to. Well, listen, I'll tell you what, we're going to start with this copper, the top cop of Essex, name of Ben Julian Harrington. He's got a lot of form. We'll talk about his background a little later. But let's just talk about the Epping protests that have been unfolding for more than a week now. Well, look, I couldn't tell the story really better than Nigel Farage, who's put this video onto social media. Take a look.
Have a look at this video.
If these are locals, why are they getting a police car? Where time's the next bus? You wait 15 minutes for a bus and then 3 come all along at once. Look, they're all cramming in.
This shows Stand Up to Racism, as they're called, with Antifa, a violent, thuggish group, arriving at the train station and literally, by Essex police, being bussed to the Bell Hotel. These were the people that caused the disturbances. These were the people that caused the riots. Essex police caused the disturbances. What on earth were Essex police thinking? Is it that they just hate so much ordinary residents determined to stand up for their own rights? I don't know the answer to that question. What I do know is what Essex police have done here is absolutely disgraceful. One of the most extraordinary acts I've seen from the police force in my lifetime. And for bussing Antifa, oh, and by the way, many of them masked protesters, for doing this, heads must roll. There is no way the Chief Constable or the Police and Crime Commissioner in Essex can stay in their posts. This is a disgrace.
Now, Mr. Farage's fury, very clear there. Now, that footage at the beginning of that video quite clearly, in my view, showed these Antifa, these stand up to racism, you know, refugees welcome idiots, masked, violent, left-wing thugs climbing into police vans. Now, witnesses, we've been covering this now for a week or so. Witnesses last Thursday told us they were driven into the middle of the fray, where mainly peaceful local protesters were making their views known, their fears and worries known about the local asylum seeker hotel, the Bell Hotel. Now, these lefties were driven straight into the middle of them. This is what witnesses told us. Anyway, today, Mr. Ben Julian Harrington, the Chief Constable of Essex, held a press conference, quite clearly squirming, trying to say, "What? Not me, Gov, didn't do anything wrong." Well, this is what he said about what people have been saying about these left-wing agitators being driven into the middle of the protest. Have a look.
I mean, there's been some accusation in the media that we drove people to the protest. That is not true. We have not driven anybody to that protest. People made their own way there. And of course, one of the accusations and one of the things circulated is we did take people away for their safety, for the safety of everyone there, because it was the best operational thing to do to prevent violence, to diffuse the situation. We drove them away from a violent confrontation.
I think the question there, Isabel, it just has to be, as I said in my monologue, is he telling the truth there, or is he lying? I mean, either way, something went badly wrong here. The Essex police made a complete mess of this. And we have so many witnesses telling us that those left-wing agitators with their masks and their violent intent and their placards, refugees welcome, stand up to racism, were driven into the middle of the protest by the police. If not, you know, they say they were driven. Now, if we give them the benefit of the doubt, they were certainly escorted into the middle of the fray. That is not the way to police a demonstration like that. He's been saying, oh, well, you know, the most important thing for the police is to facilitate the public's right to protest. No, no, no. The most important thing for the police, in terms of the public, is to keep the public safe. You don't keep the public safe by bussing a load of left-wing lunatics, violent thugs, into the middle of a peaceful demonstration, do you?
This has all the makings of a massive scandal, because it ought to be very possible to launch our own detailed investigation into who is telling the truth here. Surely there's plenty of CCTV. I'm sure whether Essex Police will be particularly keen to cooperate with an investigation into themselves remains to be seen. But it ought to be more than possible to prove it one way or the other. And even if they were bussing people away, you know, were they only bussing one set of political campaigners away from that site, or was it an even-handed bussing away of people from a trouble spot? Either way, this is extremely murky, isn't it? And, you know, such is the loss of trust, isn't it? Public trust in the police and their way of handling these things, that I think people are entitled to feel pretty gaslighted, or if that's a word, gaslit. You know, we've got the police complaining about far-right thugs, we've got the Prime Minister complaining about far-right thugs, and then what emerges is actually hard left-wing agitators who are being brought to the centre of very sensitive demonstrations. I mean, who thought that was going to end well?
So my interpretation of this is left-wing police officers helping their left-wing agitator friends. That's what's going on here. I've seen these pro-Palestine marches. The police are pro-Palestine, anti-Israel. And I think up in Epping, they were pro-left, anti-right. And they think that the local protesters, there were a few right-wing agitators there as well. That's what happens at these events. Mostly, it was local mums, dads, grandparents worried about safety on the streets, worried about their kids, and worried about safety for women in particular, because one of those asylum seekers from Ethiopia arrived on June the 29th and within 2 days was charged with 3 sexual assaults on local women. He denies those charges. However, that is enough to get a local community extremely agitated. Busing a bunch of masked left-wing thugs into the middle of that, I don't think that was very good policing. Do you know what he also said? This bloke, this guy, Ben Julian Harrington, he was asked at this sort of impromptu press conference, any regret among Essex Police's top brass, given the well-known hostilities between the two protest groups and the likelihood of tensions erupting? This is what he said. It's not for me to comment or try and criticise or examine that operation. You're the Chief Constable of Essex. It is exactly for you to do that. Who is this guy? What the hell is he talking about?
Well, are we going to talk a little bit about the other blunders by this police?
Well, of course. Let's get going. I mean, this is a woke copper. This is a classic woke copper. When we moan, as we do with monotonous regularity, about the dreadful state of policing in this country, I think we do a great disservice to thousands and thousands of decent police officers who just want to do their job. But they are led by donkeys like this guy, Ben Julian Harrington, woke top coppers who lead all of our coppers astray. This is so we know that this is the guy that sent 2 constables round to the house of our friend and colleague, Telegraph columnist Alison Pearson, on Remembrance Sunday morning, 9:30 in the morning, to warn her that she was under investigation about a problematical tweet that she'd put out a year ago. There was no problem with it whatsoever. What on earth? And he later said that that action by the cops was totally justified. No, it wasn't, Mr. Harrington. It was a disgrace, just like your handling of that demonstration in Epping. Utter disgrace. Nigel Farage is right. Check this out. This is what he said about hate crime. He's obsessed with hate crimes. Essex Police, by the way, Mr. Harrington presides over, drum roll, you'll get excited by this, a 13 1% success rate in solving crimes. So 87% of crimes in Essex under his auspices do not get solved. He also is responsible for the arrest, this sounds a bit odd, but statistically it works out, of 1.3 people every day for hate crimes. You see what I mean? So obviously he doesn't arrest a third of a person, but statistically that's how it works out. This is what he said in 2021 in a document that he produced. Essex police have identified 14 thematic stands which not only pose the greatest potential threat, harm and risk to our people and communities, but also present the greatest opportunity for prevention. He's talking about hate crimes. He thinks hate crimes are the greatest threat to the community in Essex. This guy isn't fit to run a bath, let alone a major police force.
But I think the guy's position is untenable. That is what Nigel Farage has said. It's what a number of other leading political figures have said this evening. I can't say that I've examined all the footage and all the testimony of everybody, but if there are multiple witnesses to these left-wingers being bussed in, and there does seem to be some pretty compelling footage of it, we already had serious questions to ask about this guy's judgment before this happened. And, you know, it is just the height of irresponsibility to deliberately facilitate that kind of clash between rival political camps, if you like. And I hesitate to call the majority of the people who were at that protest, who weren't bussed in or bussed out, political, because they won't be. They won't be party political at all. They are ordinary people who just want to get on with their lives in a nice community, you know, doing the right thing, working hard, etc., etc. You know, if you ask them, do they support one party or another, probably most of them aren't sure what they support. What they don't support is having a bunch of unknown young men brought into their community who then go on to commit heinous crimes. And it's hardly as if this is a one-off, even in the last few days. I mean, very interesting breaking news from Lee Anderson this evening.
Oh, yeah, I saw that. Yeah, go on.
I don't know if we're going to come to cover that, but he has issued the most extraordinary post on social media where he talks about a terrible alleged crime in his constituency by an asylum seeker. I'm afraid it is the worst kind of alleged sexual assault on a young woman. And the MP was asked by the police to keep quiet about it. And he's decided, screw that, I'm not keeping quiet about it. We've all had enough of this nonsense.
There is no legal imperative for Lee to remain silent about that. He was told by the police you might affect the trial. They've got to stop this. They've got to stop this. Threatening the people of this country, oh, you're going to ruin the trial. You can't ruin a trial until someone's in court. You can't do that. So that is nonsense. Before we go to break, we'll have a proper look at Lee after the break, actually. Before we do go to break, though, this is, again, Ben Julian Harrington at this press conference today. He was asked whether or not he would resign. I bet you can't guess how he answered, but let's have a quick look.
If you're not apologising, are you going to follow the demands of some politicians in this country who have called you to resign over this?
No, I'm not. I'm not going to do that. And this is not about me. This is about the communities of Essex, is what I spoke about earlier. You know, the communities that are disrupted, the legitimate people who want to go and protest outside that hotel, and I make no observation of that view of that. If they're peaceful and lawful, they want to express their views. That is their right, and this is important that within the laws of this country, the Essex police allow that to take place. I come back to the point where people break the law, where they smash up police vans, where they assault workers from the hotel, where they are chasing people away. Those are the people that we will not tolerate.
Yeah, meanwhile, the police commissioner of Essex said that he is determined to uphold the dignity of the asylum seekers who are held in hotels in that county. This is just ridiculous. Let me ask you, the wonderful audience, I mean, should this guy, Ben Julian Harrington, should he be in charge of a major police force like Essex? Do you believe him when he suddenly says, oh, no, we didn't drive them into the fray, we drove them out? Really? Really, I'm not so sure. I don't think Nigel Farage believes him. I've got my doubts. I'm sure you two also have your doubts, Isabel. Listen, let's give me a call on that, folks. 03444 991,000. Wouldn't you prefer a chief constable who wasn't obsessed with hate crime, but rather was more interested in keeping the people of that county safe by not driving left-wing lunatics into the middle of a perfectly peaceful protest? Wouldn't you prefer that kind of chief constable? Should this guy go? 03444 991,000. When we come back, we'll have a little chat about Lee Anderson, because I think that's an interesting development. And also, Isabel, you'll be excited for this. I'm going to take you on a guided tour of the latest Asylum Seeker Hotel in wonderful Canary Wharf, a very flash area of London. They've got a lovely place. 400 quid a night for you and me before they closed it to the public. Of course, our foreign friends, they get it for free because we pick up the bill. This rubbish has got to stop, folks. 0344 499 1000. Stand by for our hotel tour.
In that list that is being held up as the reason why our social fabric is fraying is the direct responsibility of the dreadful policies this government is making.
Well, those are their policies, the deindustrialisation. Those are their policies. So they're going, oh, look, here's a list of our policies that are causing societal decay.
Yes.
I mean, why don't you stop those policies? Why don't you do something that's good for this country? Honestly, Alex, you can't get your head around what's going on.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm still with Talk's international editor, Isabel Oakeshott. Yeah, I'm going to take you on a tour of the Britannia Hotel in Canary Wharf in just a second. You can't book in there because it is now fully booked for the foreseeable future with asylum seekers. 400 quid a night it was costing till about last week. Unbelievable. Anyway, we'll show you that in a second. But what you mentioned about Lee Anderson, now he's talking about a man charged with a serious rape of a local woman up in his constituency in Nottinghamshire. He spoke with Nottinghamshire police, and he was asked not to go public with this matter because it may affect the trial. Now, this guy, this accused, alleged rapist, has been charged and will go to trial. To say this is who it was, this is his name, he has been charged with rape, and you can say he's an asylum seeker. The police are saying, oh, if you say that, that will affect the trial. No, it won't. They've got to stop doing this. They are closing down public debate, the right of free speech, by threatening people by saying, oh, you're going to ruin the court case. So Lee Anderson, to his credit, has gone totally, said, I'm not going to put up with this. Enough is enough. I've spent the last 24 hours mulling this over and I cannot keep quiet. quiet. The man charged with this vile offence is an asylum seeker who has been living in Ashfield. That's Lee's constituency, isn't it? I've been banging on about illegal migration since I was elected. At first I was told by other MPs that I was a racist, a bigot, and I should shut up. I will not shut up, and I do not care about the consequences. I say, Isabel, that it's about time somebody in a prominent position took this stance, because he cannot be punished. He hasn't done anything wrong. He has not broken the law in any way. So what this feeds into is what we know is going on all over the country. These asylum seekers are allegedly committing crimes. Hundreds and hundreds of them have been charged with crimes, a significant number of them sex crimes, and we are constantly being told you can't talk about that. Councillors, officials, coppers all over the country, don't say it's an asylum seeker. Don't say it's an asylum seeker. Well, Lee's bursting that bubble, and good for him, and we should all burst it. They can't carry on dealing with this escalating problem of asylum seekers and these hotels by trying to keep the problem secret. That is pathetic.
I am so sick of these cover-ups, and I know that people up and down the country feel exactly the same way. What is it about our authorities that they do not trust the public to know what is really happening out there? It is absolutely appalling. How come they think that they have the right to conceal the truth from us? And, you know, as a journalist, I've, for the last 25 years, dealt with the basic restrictions that there are on reporting. So basically, until someone's arrested, it's equivalent of a free-for-all, because there's no one involved that you could prejudice a trial for. Once someone has been charged, yes, it does get a lot more tricky, but it has always been the case, always, that there is a simple statement that the police will put out saying, you know, a 56-year-old man, whatever, from such and such a place has been charged with such and such. They will appear in whatever court, you know, in some days' time. The press and anyone else is entirely entitled to repeat that information, and that cannot prejudice any trial, because you're not giving any circumstantial evidence. You're not talking about the detail. You are simply reporting the fact of the matter. And I'm very glad that Lee Anderson is having none of this nonsense. I'm sure there are a number of other MPs that will have none of this nonsense either. And certainly neither you nor I, Kev, will be having any of this nonsense.
I think it's our job to puncture this web of secrecy that is being set up around a serious escalating problem. Well, let me quickly take you on a tour of the Britannia Hotel. So what we learned yesterday, this unfolded before our very eyes as we were on air, was that the protests in Essex have potentially been to some extent successful, and that some of those asylum seekers have been moved into London's newest asylum seeker hotel. This is the Britannia in Canary Wharf. Very flashy area full of city traders and all that. There's a protest last night unfolding spontaneously. Well, let's have a look inside this hotel. This was £400 a night, and I think we're going to take a sort of tour here. Can we look inside, please? And it's got restaurants, bars, it's got a swimming pool, sauna. We're hoping to go inside pretty soon. This is the protest outside. Inside, it's a luxury hotel, and it is in the middle of Canary Wharf, a very flash area. While we wait to go inside, your thoughts on this, Isabel?
Well, my thoughts on this is that this is just an absolute joke, is it not? You know, why the heck should the British taxpayer continue to fund this type of luxury lifestyle? And it is a luxury lifestyle in very high-end hotels for people that come over here. And frankly, from the evidence that we've had, including your brilliant interview last night, show very little appreciation and respect to either those that are paying for all of this, which is the great British public, or the many staff that are working very hard in not very good conditions to provide everything for them.
Well, exactly. Now, I think we can go inside the hotel now. So here we are. Welcome to the Britannia Hotel. Look at it. It's rather flash. I've been there myself. I used to work for there's the lounge. There's the lovely drink. Nice view across there's the bedrooms. It's very nice, isn't it? Look at that. That's wonderful. Nice place. So, as I say, it's got several restaurants. Nice bar, cocktail bar there. It's got a swimming pool. It's got beautiful views, drinks, £400 a night until they closed the doors, as it were, to the public. The International Hotel, it's a Britannia Hotel. It's extraordinary, isn't it? I mean, how much more are we going to give these people? Why are we putting them in a hotel? This is costing us a fortune. We are basically paying for those people £400 a night for them to stay there. That's our bill, the taxpayers' bill. We might as well go to reception and say, how much do we owe you? It's a disgrace.
Do you know what? I also feel incredibly strongly about the companies that are accepting this money. You know, these companies are feeding off the misery of the wider British society. You know, they are quite simply taking very, very large sums of money, and this is our money, and it is in order to enable and facilitate a racket that the British public have had enough of. And I think it is highly unethical. And the name Britannia Hotels seems to come up time again. I think this is a group of hotels, if I'm not wrong, that is very heavily associated with providing accommodation for asylum seekers. I think it's deeply immoral. I don't think it's any way to run a business. Hotels are for tourists, they're for business travellers, they are for paying guests. They are not set up for hostels, for free accommodation, for basically a bunch of scroungers. And I'm very, very sorry to use that quite blunt language, but it's evident to me from the number of people that are now coming out as witnesses from inside these migrant hotels that there's an awful lot of scrounging going on.
Yeah, and it's interesting you say about Britannia Hotels. They are indeed a chain, and you know, I'll admit I live in quite a plush area. It's called Hampstead in North London. I am the poorest resident in NW3, trust me. I saw a massive bunch of migrants all shuffling around the other day with suitcases and stuff. And guess what's about a mile from my house? That's right, it's a Britannia Hotel. So I think certain chains have basically sold out the whole business to the government. And these hotels, do you know that guy I had on last night, Luke Sharman, who worked at a couple of asylum seeker hotels in Norfolk? He said that those hotels, each one of them, got £2 million a year each.
I mean, it's grotesque. No, look, I understand, you know, they are businesses, and I understand the unbelievable temptation of this. You know, I get it. You know, someone waves a £2 million contract in your face and you're a struggling, kind of not that brilliant hotel in the grand scheme of things. Of course it's tempting, but it's so unethical. That is basically making money off your fellow men and women. And it is just wrong in my view. And there have been hotel chains that have said, do you know what? We are just not going to have anything to do with this. And that is the right way. And those companies that are cashing in on this, I really hope they go bust in future when this gravy train is finished. No one should have anything to do with them as paying guests.
Well, yeah, and the government, they just know, oh, we've got to put these people somewhere. So if they dangle enormous amounts of money in front of businessmen, people who own hotels, they'll just take it. So the whole thing is a kind of swirling mass of immorality, really. So you saw these this spontaneous demonstration outside the Britannia Hotel in Canary Wharf. Well, add that to the demonstrations that we've been seeing in Epping, and of course there was another one a couple of nights ago in Diss in Norfolk. They're going to get more and more. They're going to get more frequent, and the government apparently met yesterday, our wonderful cabinet, and they agreed that Keir's crew, his gormless government, they agreed that that they must repair the social fabric or risk a repeat of last summer's riots. Well, there's two things I'd say about that. One, you better get a move on. Last time I looked, we're in the middle of the summer. And these these disturbances are already happening. And secondly, you have to repair the social fabric, which implies the social fabric has been destroyed. Who destroyed it?
Yeah. There is absolutely no excuse on this earth for why we are where we are 1 year into more than a year into a new government. This administration had plenty of time to prepare proper solutions to stop the boats. What's happened, in fact, as everybody knows, is that there's been a multiplier. Instead of stopping the boats, even more than ever are coming over. And for the government now to say, oh gosh, things are looking a little bit hairy, we're going to have to repair the social fabric. You guys, you shattered it, and you carry on shattering it, making what's bad already into a much, much worse and more febrile and dangerous situation. And I tell you what, if people weren't terrified of being banged up for 3 years for being anywhere near any kind of heated demonstration, I tell you what, I think there'd be an awful lot more people out on the streets making their feelings known.
I think there will be anyway, Isabel. People aren't going to take this, and we will not take Keir Starmer banging everybody up in prison again like some two-bit Stalin. We will not accept that again. He better not be thinking of that. This guy is a catastrophe. Let's go to break. When we come back, we were talking of catastrophes. We're going to talk about Big Ange, Angela Rayner. That next. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm still with international editor Isabel Oakeshott. Isabel, we just learned that Britannia Hotels, and the mind boggles at this, they own Pontin's holiday camps as well. So, oh dear, who knows what might unfold in the weeks and months to come. But let's talk about Angela Rayner. She has issued a statement today, and I'm going to say, OK, maybe this is a bit snobbish, but I'm telling the truth here. This is way above Big Ange's articulacy pay grade. She said, we must tackle the profound impact of migration. And she goes on and on. It's clearly written by some twonk from Downing Street. But, I mean, she says that she and her fellow ministers must accept the real concerns people have or face another summer of riots, as we were just saying. Well, you know, what does she mean? We must what's she saying? We must consider the profound, we must tackle the profound impact of migration. Well, look.
Way too late.
Here's an idea. Turn the bloody boats around. Try that.
I mean, it's as if someone said, and this is what's happened here. You know, a bunch of spads in Downing Street have said, yeah, Prime Minister, look at the headlines lately. They're not great. You know, people say you're out tough. You know, you need to say something that makes it sound as if you get it, you know. And oh, guess what, by the way, this is really significant. Yesterday in the Daily Mail, which is a paper that every administration, doesn't matter whether they're Labour, Tory, whatever, they really worry about the Daily Mail because it has a mass readership. It's a very influential paper. Along with our own papers, they worry about the Sun, they worry about the Times. But there was a very significant article yesterday in yesterday's Mail, and they're not a reform supporting paper traditionally, saying Nigel Farage is the only politician that gets it at the moment. And that will have prompted some very serious discussion inside Downing Street about, ooh, how can we show that we get it? Oh, I know. Let's get Big Ange to do a speech saying we've got to acknowledge that there's some problems here. I mean, come on, guys. That's not even, you know, 1/1,000,000th of what you need to be doing. And it's way too late anyway. You know, these are such profound problems that have been created. And what worries, I think, so many people is that you can't unravel this that easily. I mean, what are we going to do about this? Literally deport millions of people? Because that's how many in recent years have probably come over illegally and have now won the right to remain. I mean, this is not easily reversed.
Yeah, it's a joke. And there are 202 asylum seeker hotels around the country. We're only allowed to, talking about that secrecy we were just discussing, we're only allowed to know about 70 of them because the Home Office and Keir Starmer and Yvette Cooper, they've all decided that the other 130 or so, if the local communities found out about them too early or too much, it would cause unrest. There might be trouble. Once again, this is this patronising, hopeless, incompetent shambles of a government treating us like kids, like naughty little kids that you can't trust. And this is a recipe for governmental disaster. And I think we've reached that point. You and I have discussed this before. This is a government assailed by so many crises, so many problems, self-made crises and problems. It has reached the point, I think, of stasis, of dysfunctionality. It can't function anymore. We can't go on like this.
We absolutely can't. By the way, on the secrecy point, I noticed in some of the footage that you played earlier of one of the migrant hotels, there were fences around it, and it said no filming, no photography. Well, why the hell not?
We're not allowed in, Isabel. Members of the public aren't allowed in to asylum seeker hotels. They drape them with these massive tarpaulins, black out the windows. Often quite nice hotels in the middle of nice towns. You know, these huge eyesores full of foreigners that we're not allowed into, even though we're paying their bill.
That's a public road I see there, and there is no entitlement to say no filming, no photography. You are entitled to film and take photographs in public places of public things. So, I mean, yes, you're not allowed to go onto private land, and if that's everything that you see there is private land, then that is more tricky. But my point is a wider one about, as you say, the attempt to conceal these facilities. It's not going to work. And you know, sometimes I wonder if I'm over-obsessing about this particular aspect of the breakdown of Britain. And the thing is that so many other problems stem from it. You know, listening to your interview last night with Luke Sharman, I think that...
Luke Sharman, yes.
You know, he talked about how dentists and...
Yeah, twice a week. Doctors and dentists, twice a week.
You know, whenever anyone might want to criticise us for banging on about this issue, the reason is not because we dislike or we hate, not at all, the people who are coming over. I've said 100 times, I don't blame them. It's a no-brainer for them. What we hate is the abuse of taxpayers' money and the fact that British citizens are having to become second and third class citizens in their own country. And I'm afraid that if you are diverting dentistry and national health services to asylum seeker hotels, well, guess who's missing out? It is ordinary patients who have paid in their national insurance and deserve to be treated I'm afraid, ahead of these incomers.
Exactly right. And before we go to break, just a quick reminder that the thousands and many thousands, we think now maybe 36,000 Afghanis secretly airlifted into this country after they claimed they helped Britain during the Afghanistan war. Most of them, by definition, were lying. There are only about 4,000 people helped the Brits in that war. But of course, Ben Wallace and Grant Shapps just lowered the drawbridge and said, oh, you can all come because you're on the kill list. So they all came here. And apart from being promised welfare for life, they don't have to work. They were also leapfrogged straight to the top of social housing lists. So Brits who've been waiting for years suddenly found themselves pushed further down the queue as our new residents from Afghanistan went to the top of the queue. We are being treated like second-class citizens by a bunch of Guardian-reading idiots who run this country, who think, you're going to be kind, they're human beings. So are we! So are we! Give us a break, for God's sake. When we come back, we're going to talk about the education profession and teachers' increasingly disturbing tendency to despise the Union Jack. There's been another case of pupils being punished for wearing the national flag. What the hell is going on? 0344 499 1000. That next, stay tuned.
In that list that is being held up as the reason why our social fabric is fraying is the direct responsibility of the dreadful policies this government is making.
Well, those are their policies, the deindustrialisation. Those are their policies. So they're going, oh, look, here's a list of our policies that are causing societal decay.
Yes.
I mean, why don't you stop those policies? Why don't you do something that's good for this country? Honestly, Alex, you can't get your head around what's going on.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm still with Talk's international editor, Isabel Oakeshott. Isabel, let's talk about the Union Jack. You remember last week there was a 12-year-old girl called Courtney Wright, I seem to remember. Went to her school in Rugby. It was supposed to be a culture day. There she is in her little Union Jack dress. She wanted to talk about tea, Shakespeare, fish and chips, and the royal family. She was banned from the school. Because the teacher said, oh, no, this isn't for the Brits, this is for all the other cultures. There was quite rightly a big storm about that. Her dad came on to Talk to complain. The school apologised for their mishandling of this situation, but you got the feeling they still thought they did the right thing. Well, it's damn well happened again, only this time even worse. This is a school. Why don't they call schools schools these days? This is a school. Guess what it's called? The Ormiston Sandwell Community Academy. Why don't they just call it the Ormiston Middle School or whatever the hell they call them these days? It's a ridiculous name. Anyway, at the Ormiston Samwell Community Academy, which is just a school, by the way, dozens of pupils, that's in the West Midlands, were asked to wear outfits. The school was asked to wear outfits to reflect their heritage. Dozens of pupils turned up wearing Union Jack flags, either in the form of, the girls were wearing them in the form of skirts and dresses, some just sort of draped them around their shoulders, and 20, as I say, dozens of them, but 30 kids in patriotic garb were isolated. They were taken to a classroom and not allowed to mix with the rest of the kids. Meanwhile, some kids were running around the school, embraced by the teachers, wearing Jamaican, Spanish, loads of foreign flags, but the Union Jack wasn't allowed. It was called Culture Day. One 15-year-old pupil who's in the Sun today, her name's Isabel Whirl, she asked the head teacher why she was being corralled into a classroom with 30 other kids in patriotic garb, and she says she was simply told, because it's not allowed. What is going on? Why can't kids wear the Union Jack? Why do teachers think that our national flag is some kind of abomination?
I mean, this story is so sort of symbolic, isn't it, of the wider things that are going on, and I really worry about what's going on in UK schools. Is actually one of the reasons why I took my own children out of the UK for their education, because of the absolute woke nonsense and brainwashing that is going on in our schools. And this idea that our national flag should be a source of shame is absolutely appalling. But it is encouraged, I think, by the political leadership, and that's not just Labour, it's the Tories that came before them, who seem to think, for example, that the pride flag is almost a replacement for the Union Jack sometimes. And when I was in London about 10 days ago, there were huge Union Jacks all down the Mall in London, and they looked absolutely fantastic. And
it's a good flag, isn't it, actually?
It's a great flag. Why can't we have more of it, not less of it? And bottom line is, this basically ends up being discrimination against ourselves. It's so self-harming and completely bizarre.
Yeah, and I worry about what's going on in schools. There are a lot of great teachers, obviously, but I think there are a lot of teachers who are either deliberately brainwashing our kids into a kind of left-wing, overly liberal worldview, not letting them make up their own minds, but brainwashing them into their way of thinking. Either there are teachers who do this deliberately, or they're so stupid, and there are a lot of stupid teachers out there, they don't even realise that what they're teaching kids are not facts. They're kind of political opinions. So we did a story last night about a school in Streatham, southwest London, where it's a primary school. Kids at 5 to 11 years old, and they were being taught about masculinity, and they were shown a big picture of this actor. It's called Elliot something, I can't quite remember his name, but when I say he, it's a she. So it's a woman who's had surgery to become, to pretend to be a man. So she's had all the surgery. So this actor person, I'll look it up in a second while you think about this, was showing, this is a great example of, this is how you get away from toxic masculinity, because this is an example of masculinity that is soft and strong. It's a bloody woman.
Oh my God. I mean, look, this is rife. I can probably say this now because my children have all left the school, but only a few months ago, I had to write to the head teacher of my daughter's otherwise excellent school, raising a complaint about an external speaker to the scholarship group of pupils, who I heard from multiple witnesses started being very disparaging about my partner, Richard Tice, who is a Reform MP. Clearly, they didn't know that someone in the audience was quite well connected with the MP in question. I found this totally unacceptable. By all means, have a political conversation, but you've got to represent both sides if you're in education. You can't just try to feed children the idea that everybody on the right of politics must be an idiot. And in this case, a kind of climate change denier. I think that was the context of it. This is absolutely rife. As I say, my girls' former school is absolutely outstanding. It's a really brilliant school. And yet, even in one of the best schools in the country, this stuff takes place.
Yeah, it's because, again, I don't want to disparage all teachers. Most teachers are great, but there are a lot of idiot teachers out there as well, and a lot of really serious left-wing moron teachers who see their job as brainwashing children into groupthink, net zero, all that kind of stuff, and of course gender politics. Now, the Canadian actor I told you about, Elliot Page, that's a woman who's had surgery to pretend that she's a man. She was held up to the kids, 5 to 11 years old. You see that masculinity can mean softness and strength. Also, these kids were assailed by pictures of Harry Styles, because Harry Styles likes to wear pretty feminine clothes. And that was that proof that men can be multi-dimensional. No pictures of, footballers who like a few beers, that kind of thing, that sort of masculinity. We can't have that. This is the head teacher. Her name's Sarah Wardlaw. I call her a social engineer. She said this, listen to this. This is what she said. This is about these kids, 5 to 11 years old, she's talking about. It is important to teach pupils about harmful stereotypes about masculinity. Undoing the deeply ingrained gender stereotypes in our society takes time. We have seen a significant improvement in children's awareness of key issues surrounding gender equality. They know how to use their voice to advocate for others. They're 5 years old.
I mean, this is just kind of laughable, is it? Well, it would be laughable if it wasn't serious, and it is really serious, because what you're doing there is no favour to little ones who don't need to have this twaddle confusing their minds at that age. It's not relevant to a 5-year-old. It's not relevant to a 6-year-old. I'm not sure it's relevant remotely, frankly, to an 11-year-old either. Let children be children.
Yeah. And also, clearly, Miss Wardlaw and her ilk, they think that any kind of masculinity, that, a more traditional, cliched idea of masculinity, maybe someone like me, who likes to go to football, have a few beers, hang out with his mates and all that kind of stuff. They think that's toxic masculinity. Oh no, we don't want that kind of masculinity. Well, it is a kind of masculinity, and it's probably the most healthy kind of masculinity to promote to 5-year-old kids, rather than confuse them with some pretend bloke who's a woman. It's just mad, isn't it?
Kind of sick decadence of a culture, isn't it? Yeah. Our enemies are not doing this. In China, they're busy teaching young men how to be real men by toughening them up. Yeah. And these are our adversaries. I don't think there's a whole load of this woke stuff in Russia, for example.
I've got to go, Isabel. Point taken. Great to talk to you. Brilliant week. Thank you very much.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This
welcome back. We're going to talk about Essex Police again in just a second with our friend Mike Neville, former Met Police detective. He's got a few words to say. He knows about proper policing. What went on in Epping, that was not proper policing. Something went badly wrong there. And the big question is the Chief Constable of Essex telling the truth when he denies that the coppers drove left-wing agitators into the middle of the protest, a peaceful protest outside the local Asylum seeker hotel. Is he lying or is he telling the truth? 0344 499 1000. We'll talk about that with Mike in just a minute. And in 20 minutes or so, I'll be honest with you, I don't usually like doing doctors' strike type stories because I get bored with how often they go on strike. I get bored with their pathetic little greedy demands. They give us 28%. Oh, you're giving us 28%. Give us another 29%. You know, oh, patients, no, patient safety isn't compromised. Yes, it is. You're killing them. Patients die because of your strikes. So I get so irritated by these militant medics that I just don't cover the story. But I think the time has come because these little pieces of excrement have decided to go on strike on Friday for 5 days. People will die because of this, and we need to talk about it. So we'll do that in about 20 minutes or so. Take your calls at 8:30 at 0344 499 1000. I think you know what we're talking about tonight. And also, we'll have a bit of fun at 9:15. There's an Elvis show, or there was an Elvis show not far from here, the Excel Centre in London, in East London. Anyway, it's one of these. You remember that Willy Wonka exhibition, the show up in Glasgow? There was just a massive, great con, and people were furious. Well, it looks like we've got a similar situation concerning the King of Rock and Roll, old Elvis. He'll be turning in his grave about this. So basically, people all turned up. They were expecting holograms, 3D experiences, avatars. They got old footage of Elvis and some actor dancing in front of it. And one pensioner shouted what he thought about it. I'll tell you what he shouted. 9:15. I think I can say it then. Can't really say it yet, but I will then. Anyway, the burly security guards there picked him up and chucked him out of the concert. The rest of the event, the rest of the people went mad. They cancelled the gig, and everybody's demanding their money back. So we'll talk about that at 9:15. But first, let's go back to the big story of the day. I think maybe arguably one of the big stories of the year. The disgraceful goings on in Epping and the way the police handled that disturbance, those protests there. Let's welcome to the show our friend Mike Neville. Welcome, Mike.
Thanks, Kevin.
Well, listen, bear with us because you can watch this and you'll get the point. But Nigel Farage pretty much explained what I think a lot of us are thinking. So take a look at this.
Have a look at this video.
If these are locals, why are they getting a police car? Where time's the next bus? You wait 15 minutes for a bus and then 3 come all along at once. Look, they're all cramming in.
This shows stand up to racism, as they're called, with Antifa, a violent, thuggish group, arriving at the train station and literally, by Essex Police, being bussed to the Bell Hotel. These were the people that caused the disturbances. These were the people that caused the riots. Essex Police caused the disturbances. What on earth were Essex Police thinking? Is it that they just hate so much ordinary residents determined to stand up for their own rights? I don't know the answer to that question. What I do know is what Essex Police have done here is absolutely disgraceful. One of the most extraordinary acts I've seen from the police force in my lifetime. And for bussing Antifa, oh, and by the way, many of them masked protesters, for doing this, heads must roll. There is no way the Chief Constable or the Police and Crime Commissioner in Essex can stay in their posts. This is a disgrace.
Well, Mike, we're going to play you one more piece of footage before we have a chat. First of all, I should point out that the Crime Commissioner of Essex, his comment on this was he's determined to preserve the dignity of the asylum seekers in this hotel and indeed in the county. So that's great, isn't it? Now, this guy, the Chief Constable of Essex, is a guy called Ben Julian Harrington. He's refusing to resign. He actually said, you're going to like this, he said about the protest and what the police did, it's not for me to comment or try and criticise or examine that operation. You're the Chief Constable. Yes, it is. Anyway, he was asked about Nigel Farage's contention that the police drove left-wing agitators into the middle of the protest, causing all sorts of problems. It erupted then. And we have witness reports on this show that that's exactly what happened, that these Antifa stand up to racism thugs arrived, you know, with their refugees welcome placards, arrived at the station, and the police sort of picked them up and took them to the protest, causing all sorts of problems, as I say. But this is Mr. Ben Julian Harrington's response to what Nigel Farage said.
I mean, there's been some accusation in the media that we drove people to the protest. That is not true. We have not driven anybody to that protest. People made their own way there. And of course, one of the accusations and one of the things circulated is we did take people away for their safety, for the safety of everyone there, because it was the best operational thing to do to prevent violence, to diffuse the situation. We drove them away from a violent confrontation.
Well, I'll tell you what's happening now, Mike, is people are just saying, now I'm not making any comment, but people are saying they just don't believe this guy. They think he's gaslighting us. He's trying to come up with some kind of narrative that justifies this incredible shambles of the way the police handled this perfectly peaceful protest, at first by local residents who are a bit worried about the asylum seekers in their midst. But your thoughts on what Nigel Farage was saying? As I say, we have witness reports that that's exactly what was happening, and yet this Chief Constable is saying, oh no, it wasn't.
It is quite extraordinary, Kevin. I've never seen anything like it in my life. Now, as I understand it, some of the footage, I don't know whether they were bussed in or bussed out. I do know there's also footage of them being marched down the road, people in masks being escorted down the road to the area of the protest. You have an assistant Chief Constable, Hooper, who claims the police have a duty to facilitate assembly or something. It's utter rubbish.
But the public's right to protest. The public's right to protest. They don't. Sorry, Mike, carry on.
Yeah, so the police have no such duty. The job of the police is to keep the king's peace. And when you see this, you've got people protesting who are, to me and you, mums and dads, local people who are saying we don't want this anymore. We've got an allegation that one of those people is now been charged and indecently assaulted a young girl. But in the mind of the Prime Minister, in the minds of those senior police officers, these people are right-wing thugs. You've got to see it from where they're coming from. The people coming in with their silly little signs, who come from all over the country, masked and all this, they are the nice people in their heads. They're the people who are welcome refugees, who celebrate diversity. This is what the problem really is here, that you've got this mindset of an elite who see two very, very different things that we see. But I just think it's quite incredible how this has been done. It's like marching a group of Millwall supporters into a group of West Ham supporters, and when it all kicks off, saying, oh, look at these, they're all to blame for doing this. Yeah. It's not the job of the police to cause trouble. It is the job of the police to keep the peace and make sure there isn't drama. And I really just don't know what's going on here. The Essex Police, just yesterday, I received a Freedom of Information Act request from Essex Police. It took them 6 weeks. I asked them, how many robbers and burglars have you caught with CCTV? This is my case.
Yeah. Go on.
And they couldn't answer that question. And what that tells me, they're not focused on robbery and burglary and theft and all the crimes that me, you, the people of Epping, etc., are focused on. They're focused on all the wrong things. And this is where the establishment just doesn't come up to. It doesn't match what the people of England want, and this is the real problem.
Yeah, he has his constabulary, the Essex Police, have a 13% success rate in solving crimes. So 87% of crimes, thanks to Mr. Harrington's police officers, go unsolved. 13% are solved. 87% are not. Meanwhile, Ben Julian Harrington, the chief constable there, he believes that the greatest threat to the local community, in fact Britain at large generally, is hate crime. He said...
Kevin, that's why Kevin, that's why he was round at Alison. These officers were Alison Pearson's.
Well, I was just going to come to that.
On Remembrance Sunday. It's absolutely shocking.
Yeah, so he says that hate crimes basically pose the greatest potential threat, harm and risk to our people and communities. They also present the greatest opportunity for prevention. First of all, he's absolutely wrong. Of course, hate crimes don't present any particular threat or harm to our communities at all. But I note that he says that they present the greatest opportunity for prevention, which is presumably why he's getting his statistics to look slightly less ridiculously bad by sending 2 officers round to my friend, colleague and columnist, brilliant columnist at the Daily Telegraph, Alison Pearson, on Remembrance Sunday morning at 9:30 a.m. She opened the door in her dressing gown and they dressed her down about a problematical tweet that she had posted a year before, which turned out to be no problem at all. That is the kind of police force this guy is running. So he's all very well if he wants to go and harass some woman journalist about something she tweeted a year ago, but if he's got to deal with a very real situation involving a local peaceful protest, he's clearly massively out of his depth.
Absolutely, and he's got a national lead in relating to public order. But what strikes me as well, the other thing that gets me is after the Ruda Cabana murders in Southport, we were told there was all these right-wing thugs being bussed into Southport and the community should be allowed to get on with its own business. And afterwards, of course, this was all proved to be nonsense because all the people who had been charged with offences across the country didn't, live within 1 or 2 miles of where the crime had taken place. And Starmer made a big deal about these travelling right-wing thugs. Why isn't he now speaking about these travelling left-wing characters? These left-wingers who are coming in with these signs, where it's all organised. They've got the same social worker party signs. They've got the same chants. They're the same people. And what I found myself in the police is when I was a young PC, you go up to London and there'd be ban the bomb, stop the war, save the whale. And it's the same individuals, time and time and time again, whose day out is causing trouble at one of these demonstrations. And I've no doubt if we pull their mask down, and why didn't the police tell them to do that? Because they can tell them, they can order people to take the mask off. We would see that the people in Epping who were from the left wing were the same people you see on Palestinian marches in London, all sorts of other marches across the country. And the people who were outside protesting about the migrants in the hotel would have lived within 1 or 2 miles of that establishment and were simply local people who were concerned about the impact on their community.
Totally right. And it's a good point you make there, Mike. So as you said, last summer, particularly Southport, but all the riots, Keir Starmer was assuring us that these were right-wing thugs who'd been transported in from all over the country to cause trouble. They descended on Southport, they descended on Rochdale, all the way across the country. They descended, they came in by train, by car, they were busy communicating with each other using their mobile phones. A police investigation subsequent to the riots concluded that did not happen, that there was no evidence of people being transported in, coming in by train. It was local people. So that was totally wrong. Keir Starmer, another one of his lies surrounding last summer's riots. But what we do know from Epping is the left-wing thugs are being transported in are coming in by train, and according to a lot of eyewitnesses, Nigel Farage are then able to complete their journey courtesy of the police's taxi service, taking them from the station into the middle of the protest and watch it erupt. Thank you very much. So left-wingers are being transported in, right-wingers are not.
Absolutely. And what strikes me, though, even what he claims, though, what Harrington claims, is that they shipped them out. And they said they shipped them out because there was all sorts of danger and they were in danger. If that was true, we would see on that footage, you know, gangs of like bald-headed right-wing thugs throwing things, smashing things up, and there would be an absolute urgency. Look, we've got to get these people out of here. But we don't see that at all. We basically see a taxi service. Oh, next four on here. Get a bloke in a mask gets on a police carrier and off they go. We don't see any evidence of any danger to those people at all. So if there was not, why are we using police transport? I've never known this in all my life. I was 33 years in the military police and the Metropolitan Police, and I've never seen anything like this before. And it's what gets me all the time is British policing was seen throughout the world as the most trusted, impartial, decent, innovative thing. We invented fingerprints, we invented DNA, we had the Dixon of Dock Green image. And look at what we've got now. We've got a police force which is tragically turning into some sort of Stasi that supports a government above the people. And the trust and confidence in the policing, is at absolute rock bottom. And from a British policing point of view, it is absolutely tragic because we were always at the top of that. We weren't like the French gendarmes or the German police bullying people, the Spanish police beating people over the head with sticks, or the American police shooting people. We were always better than that. And the sad thing is, we're not anymore.
I know,
it really breaks my heart.
Absolutely. What people conclude from what they saw in Essex, and there have been other examples, and if you compare it to what happened last summer in places like Southport, the police in those areas, no one's condoning the riots and the way bricks were thrown at the coppers and mosques were attacked and asylum seeker hotels were attempted to be burnt and all that. Nobody's condoning that. But what it looked like to us was when the police saw what they thought were right-wing thugs, they were down on them like a ton of bricks. So police don't like right-wing thugs. Left-wing thugs, turns out they offer them a taxi service. So what people look at Epping and conclude is we have left-wing coppers who support left-wing thugs. We have left-wing coppers who are disproportionately unfair to right-wing people and indeed the local community. They believe, I think a lot of coppers, the kind of likes of Ben, Julian, Harrington, believe that a local person worried about asylum seekers in their midst is probably some kind of right-wing racist or something like that. So what we're building up here, and this is the crisis of policing in this country, is that the people of this country now believe that our police are kind of institutionally left-wing and woke. In other words, that sacred principle of unbiased, impartial policing has been broken. And I don't blame thousands and thousands of rank-and-file, hard-working, decent coppers who just want to do their job. Our policing problem in this country, and it's a crisis, is all down to woke left-wing chief constables like Ben Julian Harrington and his hate crime obsession. That's where our policing problem lies.
Absolutely right. Today, on the street right now, there are young men and women who are facing knives and guns and fists, who are driving into danger, running into danger, helping us. But what the biggest issue is that we have these woke senior officers who are literally clones. They all believe the same thing. They talk about diversity, but there's no diversity of thought. They need to be replaced. And also the tragedy of Essex is that you're supposed to have a conservative police and crime commissioner who sounds like some wet liberal Democrat who thinks that he's not supporting the decent folk of Epping. And it is just a real tragedy. And I'm sure that the viewers and listeners will just want us to get back to a police force which is fair and firm, targets criminals, arrest them. And what you have, though, and we'll go back to, if you remember the incident involving PC Lawn Castle, it was the lad who was sacked down in Dorset for grabbing hold of a knife-wielding thug and calling him a few choice words. The chief constable who sacked him said, oh, this will have a real impact on the community. The community will be really concerned. It shows, that's another example of how out of touch they are. Because what the public did, of course, is raise 120 grand for that lad so he can get a proper job and look after his family. They're out of touch with what ordinary people think. They're too concerned with this minority of left-wingers, whether they're Just Stop Oil, claiming to be anti-racism, or any of these other Extinction Rebellion, any of those fashionable causes. They're too focused on pleasing them rather than pleasing the 95% of us who pay tax and just want to be safe on the streets and safe in our homes. And it's best that they start focusing on the people who pay their wages, to be honest.
Absolutely right. And we will watch Ben Julian Harrington's career with great interest. He seems to think he's safe as houses, even in these woke times where people like him get away with a hell of a lot. I think he could be in trouble. I think he really could. He certainly deserves to be. Mike, fantastic to talk to you as always. Thank you so much for your time. That's Mike Neville, a former Met Police detective. Let's go to break now. When we come back, we need to talk about the doctors' strike. So let's do just that, shall we? Back in a mo.
In that list that is being held up as the reason why our social fabric is fraying is the direct responsibility of the dreadful policies this government is making.
Well, those are their policies, the deindustrialisation. Those are their policies. So they're going, oh, look, here's a list of our policies that are causing societal decay.
Yes.
I mean, why don't you stop those policies? Why don't you do something that's good for this country? Honestly, Alex, you can't get your head around what's going on.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's talk about the doctors' strike. As I say, I've avoided the issue so far because just reporting on militant medics going, oh, we're going to go on strike, we're another £1 million a week, we only get 120 grand a year, please give us... It just gets on my nerves. You know, unless otherwise informed, assume that doctors want to go on strike. The problem now is they are going on strike. They voted to reject West Streeting's offer and they'll walk out on Friday for 5 days. Here's what worries me about that. Whatever they say, they'll go, oh, patient safety won't be compromised. Of course it will be. So you can't have hundreds, probably thousands of doctors walking out of hospitals all over the country. They're members of the BMA, the British Medical Association, which of course is a posh name for a two-bit left-wing trade union. Anyway, they're walking out all over the country, thousands of doctors not in a hospital. How can that not compromise patient safety. Not to put too fine a point on it, patients will die. And I think that's a disgrace. And if they're going to keep doing this, we've got to take the right of strike away from them. Can't have people dying because of industrial action. No industrial action is worth a single human life, is it, folks? Let me know what you think about that. 0344 499 1000. Let's talk about this to psychiatrist, TV psychiatrist, well-known personality, Dr. Raj Persaud. Welcome, Raj.
Welcome. Thank you very much. I'm a bit nervous now talking to you, speaking as a doctor, given that intro. Well, but you made it very clear your view on doctor strikes.
I'm against them. I'll be honest with you. I'm against them. I won't hear it when doctors say, "Oh, the fact that thousands of us are walking out, so thousands of us won't be in hospitals tending to patients." I won't hear it when they say that our walkout, our strike, does not compromise patient safety. It just does, doesn't it? Obviously.
Well, yes. I mean, and one very obvious fact that backs up your position, and doctors actually have gone on about this quite a lot in the past, is that at weekends in hospitals, when there are fewer doctors around, mortality rates go up. And that, oddly enough, was part of the campaign of doctors to have more doctors on at weekends. If mortality rates go up because there are fewer doctors around at a weekend, which is just 2 days, imagine what happens if they're not around for many more days than that. However, what I would say is that while I agree with you that mortality rates go up, sometimes they actually go up not during a doctor's strike, but actually after a doctor's strike when the doctors have come back to work.
Well, is that because they're really bad doctors or something?
Well, I'll come back to that in a minute. The data on what happens to mortality rates, because people have examined this research-wise in doctor strikes all around the world, because maybe regrettably, doctors have had a tendency to go on strike a little bit more often all around the world. But what we think is happening is actually the mortality rate goes up more dramatically many months after the doctor strike, when the doctors have gone back to work, because you would have gone to your doctor. Let's say you had a mole or something that needed looking at, and because there was a doctor strike, you never got seen.
Right.
And then, 6 months later, some horrible cancer.
So it's a knock-on effect. Effect. Yeah,
the knock-on effect that I think is actually a bit hidden and obscured. Oddly enough, sometimes during a doctor strike itself, and please don't take this the wrong way, mortality rates go down.
That's kind of counterintuitive, isn't it?
I know. Well, I'll tell you one of the reasons they go down, he says somewhat defensively, which is that the main thing that happens during a doctor's strike is emergency care and casualty and A&E departments carries on, right?
Right.
But elective surgery stops, okay? Now, what we've discovered, somewhat to doctor's surprise, is elective surgery is a hell of a lot more dangerous than we thought it was.
I see what you're saying.
There's a mortality rate associated with surgical intervention. So when you stop elective surgery, actually, death rates sometimes go down. But it may be a temporary phenomenon.
Sure.
One of the best examples of this, again, from a very surprising result, was a particular study that was done looking at heart attack rates during the major conference for cardiologists in America. So all the cardiologists, the top cardiac heart doctors, went to a conference. Therefore, all the hospitals in America were less populated with these senior, clever,
surgeons,
cardiologists. Yeah. And oddly enough, deaths from cardiac problems went down during the conference.
Because of surgery, less surgery. Yeah?
Yes, that could be it. But anyway, look, I mean, I agree with you that the reality is whatever the doctors' union says, it is likely to be the case that health in patients will be compromised, maybe to the extent of deaths. And I think that's very worrying for patients.
I think it's very worrying for us as a country. Can we just, for a second, Raj, let's just, if you don't mind, examine what the doctors are asking for. They're now called resident doctors. They used to be called junior doctors, which was a bit of a misnomer because many of them are like 50 years old or something. So I can see why they would be called resident doctors, but they're certainly not resident in hospitals all that often because they're always on strike. But anyway, when Labour first got in, West Streeting, the new health secretary, awarded these militant medics pay rises worth 28.9%. This was sort of backdated. It sounds extremely generous. Now, these aren't, as a result of that, these are people who can easily earn £100,000 a year or more, but that's not enough. They are now going back on strike, demanding 29.2% more, another 29% pay rise. They say they need the increase to reverse the pay erosion since 2008. Poor old West Streeting says they are showing complete disdain for patients. My point, or my question to you is, you got 28.9% a year or so ago. Now you want another 29%. Aren't you somewhat pushing your luck? I'm not addressing you, I'm talking to the resident doctors. Isn't this a bit outrageous? Is it worth compromising patient safety? Patients may be dying because you're asking for this astronomical rise that we know you won't get?
Well, I think you're making extremely valid points. However, I think you're looking in slightly the wrong place for where the problem is. I believe that first of all, doctors, because, you know, when people are very, very ill, they're willing to do anything to see a doctor and have their lives saved. So doctors command a kind of premium in the employment market because what they deal with is something that's perhaps the most valuable thing of all, the power of life and death. The point you're making is, should they be able to monetize that and commercialize it in quite the same way that they seem to now be doing, which they didn't do historically. And I agree with that point. But the reason they can do it is because of the monolithic Soviet-style, centrally planned NHS that we have. And we actually have to look at that. Imagine if each hospital could negotiate its own pay rates with doctors, right? And if it thought the doctors were charging too much, they could go and find other doctors elsewhere. If we break this monolithic 1.2 million employees, Soviet-style, centrally planned system and had more internal competition, I think we would tackle the problem more directly.
Well, that's a good point, but don't you think, I mean, what I would suggest about these resident doctors, they're like Prince, aren't they? The artist formerly known as Prince, the doctors formerly known as juniors, now known as residents. What I would suggest about them, I mean, I'm reticent about taking the right of striking away from people. It's one of our sacred, you know, bedrock rights in a Western democracy. You know, I'm reticent about taking away the right of people to withdraw their labour in pursuit of an industrial dispute. But these doctors, these resident doctors, junior doctors, I mean, they seem to, many of them seem to be just mad militants who can't wait to get out on the picket line. And I think they're abusing the fact that we still let them strike. Now, bear that in mind, Rav. We don't allow the police to go on strike. The army can't go on strike. Incredibly, to my mind, firefighters can go on strike. So if there's a firefighter strike, folks, don't let your house catch on fire. I would suggest maybe they shouldn't be allowed to go on strike. But if these doctors are going to carry on doing this with monotonous, tragic, lethal regularity, then maybe we are going to have to take the right of strike away from them.
Well, again, I'm not disagreeing. I think all your points are valid. However, I just need to counter a little bit with an idea that even if you took the right to strike away from doctors, there's still a famous thing called work to rule, right? Where you decide rather rigidly what you think the job involves. And as a result, you cause chaos because you don't do all sorts of things that normally people would expect you to do. I mean, you turn up precisely at 9, you go home precisely at 5, and you don't do a whole lot of things like write letters, which you're meant to do, etc., etc. So even if you were to take away the right to strike, there is this famous thing that workers have as a backup plan in this situation, which is work to rule. But the other point I would make is I don't believe, although there is a sense in which maybe the reason why people choose medicine may have changed. Sorry to sound like a grumpy old man, but in my day, we didn't choose it.
It's all right, Raj, I'm one of them, yeah.
Right. We chose it for another reason. It was more vocational and all sorts of other things that are going on. But however, I do believe that what lies behind this situation is a fundamental breakdown in the relationship between doctors and the NHS, which is that working conditions have been so bad as far as doctors are concerned that now they're fed up with the thing, and this is their way psychologically of taking revenge. In other words, they believe if the management are not going to look after us and they're going to give us a hard time, we will seek revenge, pay us a lot more money. It's our way of biting back. I think that's psychologically what's going on.
I'm just going to, great to talk to you, Raj, by the way. Thanks so much for your time. I'm just going to part company on this point that consultants who of course are going to have to step into the fray in the absence of resident doctors. So they're going to have to go in and do jobs that are, much less senior than they're used to. Sometimes even filling in for trainee doctors, consultants. They've been told to charge £6,000 per weekend. Good work if you can get it. So interesting times. Raj, fantastic to talk to you. Let's talk about this again. Dr. Raj Prasad there. What do you think of this? I mean, as I say, I'm not one of those people, don't let them go on strike. I'm reluctant to take away the right to strike from anybody. And, doctors should, I guess, can have the right to strike, but not if they're going to abuse it like this. Not if they're going to do it every 3 weeks and ask for 30%. Oh, you gave us 30%, can we have another 30%? No, you can't. 5 days. Let me tell you, as Raj said, people will die because of that. Maybe in the short term, maybe during those 5 days, but as Raj was pointing out, also going forward, the knock-on effect. People are going to die because of that strike. And because of that, I'm going to ask you, do you think they should be allowed to kill people with their strike? If they're going to kill people, don't you think they shouldn't be allowed to strike and we could have a few more patients survive? Don't you think that would be better? 0344499 1000. Your phone calls when we come back. Stick around.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's take some calls, shall we? Got lots of messages. I'll see if I... Oh, yeah, I saw one. This is from Paula. Those presenters, there's a certain type of presenter here on Talk and around their whole business. They love reading out messages from people who say how great they are. And I'm no exception. No, I usually don't, but I like this one. This is from Paula. Hello, Kevin. I love your show. I think you are lovely. And agree with all you say about our country. I cannot believe what a mess we are in, and I worry so much about my 2 little granddaughters. I bet you do, Paula, seriously. Thank you very much for a lovely message, and I'm glad you love my show. We're all in this together. We are in a mess. We are in a mess. And I hope things work out for your granddaughters. Keep in touch, Paula. Thank you. Let's go to the phones. Let's talk to Luke in North London. Hello, Luke.
Hello, Kev. You all right?
I'm good, mate. What would you like to say?
Well, just talking about these migrants that are in the Britannia Hotel in Canary Wharf.
Oh, yeah.
So the Britannia has always been my go-to hotel for quite a few years when I've been staying in London for work. Britannia has always been the hotel I've chose because
the one in Canary Wharf, because it's quite handy, but it's not quite as expensive as the Park Lane hotels.
So, you've got the DLR, you've got the Jubilee Line.
Yeah, absolutely. I know it quite well. I used to work near there at the Mirror. Yeah. Anyway, go on.
The location is absolutely superb.
Yeah.
And the hotel, probably when the 1980s when it was built, I'm sure it was really something special. But anyway, so I can't stay there anymore because obviously...
Because you're not allowed in. You're not a migrant. You're not an asylum seeker.
Yeah. So that avenue is now closed. So it means that I've got to have other options to stay in London. And you know how expensive it is to stay in London. It's a fortune.
Yeah.
So,
Well, let me give you a bit of advice, Luke. Now that you can't stay at the Britannia Hotel in Canary Wharf, don't try to book the Bell Hotel in Epping. You might get a similar response. There's a load of, actually, Luke, to be serious, friends of mine have told me that there are loads of hotels all over London that you can't get a booking at for years because they're asylum seeker hotels.
Well, that's right. So effectively, it's made business a lot more difficult for people trying to stay in the capital, which is me. So, but here's the punchline. So basically, because I can't really get a good hotel now in central London, I'm actually staying in a shed.
What?
So, yeah, with no running water. Because ultimately, I can afford to do that. It works for my business.
So you're in a garden shed. Do the owners of the house know that you're there, or have you just sort of sneaked in there? No, seriously, what's the deal? How come you're in a shed?
Well, you could call it a pod. Yeah, it's got electric. It's not got running water, but it suits me. I can afford it.
This is friends own the house or something, or
no. It's in North London.
Okay.
It's you know, you can
one of those garden pods. I know those. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's where I'm staying. So what the thing is, there's a migrant in my hotel in the Britannia, probably in my room.
Yeah.
I'm sleeping. And I'm sleeping in the shed tonight.
It's a migrant having a swim in the pool, going for a drink in the bar. It looks like a very. I mean, I know it vaguely because I worked near there. But extraordinary. So now you're having to live in a pod. But I suppose needs must. But there you are. There you are. Hard-working guy like you, trying to do your job. You need to do a bit of travelling, and now you can't get into the hotel of your choice because it's full of foreigners who broke into the country illegally. Isn't that special? Luke, well, best of luck in your pod and keep in touch. Good to talk to you, mate. That's Luke in North London. Tell you what, all right, let's take a quick call, shall we? Let's talk to John in Hertfordshire. Hi, John.
Hi, Kev. How you doing?
I'm all right, mate. What would you like to say?
It's just a quick story about I've been to both the Epping protests on a Sunday.
Oh, yeah.
I've got to put the record straight. The police didn't bus people, the counter protesters, to the event. That's simply not true. But the truth is much, much worse.
Well, wait a second. What about last Thursday?
No, they took them away.
You said you were at the Sunday protests.
I was at both the Sunday protests, one the week before as well.
But you weren't at the Thursday one then?
I'm at the Thursday as well, but this was the Sunday. They're both the Sunday
but did you go to the Thursday one?
At the Thursday one as well.
So how many times have you been to these protests?
I've been to 3 of them. Okay. So the first Sunday one was much, much worse. So a couple of counter-protesters sort of turned up on the green next to the hotel. And then out of nowhere, there was about 10 of them. And at that point, we started pleading with the police to move them on because we could see what was going to happen. Completely ignored by the police.
I bet you were.
And they gradually, they came out of nowhere, Kev. Before you knew it, there was about 30, 40 of them. The last counter-protester is the person that turns up with all the banners.
Yeah.
And then basically they come out of their horrible stuff, being very abusive, very aggressive. And at 7 o'clock, one of the leaders had a little chat with the police. And it was like, right, it's time to wrap up.
Yeah.
So they surrounded them. Now, rather than leading them away from the crowd, they actually led the counter-protesters through the crowd, single file. Now, why would they do that?
So this is the point. I mean, originally what I was told is exactly what you're saying. I've covered all of these most of these protests going back to last week, from the safety of my studio, of course, but we've monitored them night after night, and the stories that we were getting, and I'll be honest with you, I hadn't heard the driving aspect, but people saying that these Antifa, these stand up against racism, or whatever they're called, these these placards with refugees welcome, thugs masked, were escorted by the police into the protests. So you're confirming that?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, it was worse. We caught wind that the counter-protesters were at Epping Station, and then it was like Chinese whispers on steroids. Everyone caught wind of it and started walking down en masse. Now, why on earth did the police allow the counter-protesters to walk up the road, knowing full well there was hundreds of protesters walking down that high road to meet them. I was walking down the road with Jamie MacGyver, who's on your show quite regularly.
Oh, yeah, Jamie. I know Jamie. Yeah.
So we were behind the sort of the main sort of thrust of people moving forward. Now, why did the police not say to the counter-protesters, maybe you need to get back on that tube and leave because this isn't going to look pretty?
Did you, John, sorry to interrupt, did you at any point sort of say to the police, why are you escorting these left-wing thugs into the middle of this protest?
Right, so the interesting bit is the response of the police. So on the first Sunday when I was getting held abuse at by these counter-protesters and I was arguing back, I had the policewoman come and stood right in front of my face and wouldn't let me debate back with him. But yet she allowed him to hurl abuse at me. I think there's a problem with the police that some of the younger police...
They're left-wing, aren't they? They're left-wing and they're woke.
And I spoke to
so are the chief constables.
Yeah, well, I spoke to two of the older coppers, and you could tell by the look on their face they were more sympathetic to our side of events. But it was just the police, and then once on the second Sunday, the police let the protesters, they put them in a cul-de-sac. So they had nowhere to go. So that's when they put them in the police vans and then drove them away.
Yeah, blind. Well, listen, John, thank you very much for that insight into the middle of the protest. So the police did escort these people into the middle of it. This is a sacking offence for this chief constable, if you ask me. John, great call. Thank you very much. Keep in touch. John from Hertfordshire there. Let's go to break now. And after the break, Elvis, well, he hasn't really left the building. He was never in the building. He was supposed to be there as a hologram, a 3D avatar, one of these kind of ABBA-type shows. It was in a place in East London called the Excel Centre. Wasn't quite as good as the customers had hoped. In fact, they were left all shook up and furious. That next, stay tuned.
In that list that is being held up as the reason why our social fabric is fraying is the direct responsibility of the dreadful policies this government is making.
Well, those are their policies, the deindustrialisation. Those are their policies. So they're going, oh, look, here's a list of our policies that are causing societal decay.
Yes.
I mean, why don't you stop those policies? Why don't you do something that's good for this country? Honestly, Alex, you can't get your head around what's going on.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good evening and welcome back to the show. Let's talk about Elvis. Let's talk about a great story in The Sun, actually. Definition of a great story is it makes you laugh. I shouldn't probably have laughed at this, but it is kind of funny. It's one of these shows that promised so much but delivered so little. It was called the Elvis Evolution. It was at London's Excel Centre, and some fans paid as much as £300 a ticket to go and see this. It was meant to be a little bit like, you know, the ABBA Avatar shows. You've seen this, you know, these incredible holograms that bring the group back to life. Massive hit. Look at it. It's as if they're there. Well, this is what the fans expected to see when they went to the Elvis Evolution. Instead, instead of high-tech holograms and 3D avatars bringing Elvis Presley, the King, back to life, they got an actor dancing in front of a few video clips. And one elderly guy registers his dismay, and he got short shrift. Basically, he shouted in the middle of the show, I'm going to say it, he shouted, "This is bollocks." And the security guard dived on him, forced him to the ground, and then carried him out of here. There they are. There they are. Let's talk to the brilliant reporter who got this astonishing scoop. It is a great story. Emily Jane Heap from The Sun. Hello, Emily Jane.
Kevin, thanks for having me on.
That's a great story, so funny. But not funny if you're one of the people who were there. So this old guy shouts bollocks, and these security guards, loads of them, dive on him, shove him to the ground with just one, and they sort of carry him physically out. Look, there they go. Look at this. Look at this. And this led to a complete disarray, because his feelings were matched by everyone else there. Because, as I say, they didn't get any holograms, they didn't get any avatars, they just got some actor dancing in front of a screen, and they were so angry that they had to stop the show altogether, and now everybody's demanding their money back. Quite a scene. Tell us all about it.
I think the general consensus from fans has been they've all been a bit disappointed with this show. So it was announced in January last year, and it was billed as being this sort of high-tech, immersive AI experience. They sort of said they were going to use, thousands of hours of footage, I think it was, and videos, sort of photos from Elvis's kind of home footage to bring the King of Rock and Roll back to life. Was their words.
A cutting-edge journey through his remarkable life, right?
A dazzling journey it was supposed to be. And they, there was a lot of discourse at the time about holograms, and I think people were very much expecting it to be like, as you mentioned earlier, ABBA Voyage, to see these avatars on stage, an avatar of Elvis, bring him back to life. Unfortunately, so somewhere along the way, and Elvis Evolution have actually admitted that their plans changed early on, and they've insisted that ticket holders were made aware of this, and that it was communicated to them. But from speaking to fans, it doesn't seem that that was the case. People were expecting to see a hologram, and at some point along the way, I'm not sure why that was dropped. And unfortunately, the outcome was, essentially the sort of big finale of this show is just video footage of Elvis with a band and a man standing in front, sort of dancing.
It's so rubbish, isn't it, for so much money? It reminds me, I don't know if you remember, a couple of years ago, was it 2-3 years ago, there was the Willy Wonka experience in Glasgow. Look at this. So this was where another immersive, amazing experience where it was almost as if you were in Willy Wonka's chocolate factory, and this was it. And the punters, as you can see, were furious that they'd been basically conned. So it reminds me of this, one of these amazing events look at that just don't live up to the billing. You've spoken to the organisers, obviously. What have they said?
They said their kind of response was that that they've communicated to the fans that along the way that their plans have changed, that things changed during the development phase, and that obviously this hologram idea was dropped. They've insisted that the overwhelming feedback they've had has been positive. Obviously that's very different to what I've seen, and from the people I've spoken to, it's kind of at odds with that. But they were insisting that they did communicate to the fans that this hologram wasn't happening, and that people were aware of that when they bought the tickets.
So come to Elvis Evolution. There won't be any holograms. That's a really good. Come on, isn't it? If you watch and listen to the video, it ends up with this poor old guy getting thrown out, literally picked up and physically thrown out because he's refusing to leave. But he is, I think, voicing the disappointment of everyone there, and you can see the other fans there going, he's right, leave him alone, leave him alone. And then it ends up with some member of the staff addressing the crowd, funny enough with an American accent. I just mentioned that because it was quite interesting, probably not relevant to the story, but with an American accent telling them the event's off, it's over for tonight, so we've got to cancel it, you can get your money back, you must apply for your money back. So the whole event turned into chaos.
Yeah, so I was told that by the lady that filmed that video that show was cancelled. They were all told to leave at that point, and that was the interval of the show when this happened. So they were only sort of halfway through. And all the subsequent shows that evening were also cancelled because so Elvis Evolution have said essentially that their staff were at risk and they, that safety's their priority. And for some reason they decided to cancel all that evening's performances.
It sounds a bit odd though. I mean, you've got one old guy shouting bollocks. And then he gets carried out. It doesn't represent a safety risk. How many people would have been there, Emily Jane?
I'm not actually sure. I mean, the lady I spoke to said that evening's show she felt was quite overcrowded. And I mean, there had been issues. This show was originally meant to, so it only launched earlier this month. It's brand new, but it was meant to launch, I think it was back in November, about 9 months ago. And there was a delay, again, not sure on the reason for that. But a lot of ticket holders had their dates pushed back, and so I think they're obviously trying to catch up, and people felt that too many people had sort of been pushed into a small space.
I mean, it's just a very funny story, very funny. But not, as I say, to be serious, it's not funny for the people who spent a lot of money going there, and I hope they get their money back. How long is this show supposed to go on for?
I think it's about 110 minutes. It's just under 2 hours, and then there's an after party afterwards. It's sort of a journey through Elvis's life. I think there's a element where it's sort of a train ride where it's supposed to be multi-sensory. I think that there's at one point they sort of pump cologne into the air that's meant to smell like Elvis. And then you move into, and I think it's sort of grainy footage of kind of his life growing up told through the voice of one of his friends. So people say that you actually don't even see any sign of Elvis himself until about an hour in.
Listen, I used to work on The Sun, and the definition of a great story anywhere is a story that makes you laugh, but the definition of a great Sun story is a story that makes you absolutely split your sides, and that's what this is, one such story. Brilliant scoop, Emily Jane. Thank you so much for the time. Good to talk to you. Emily Jane Heap there with my favourite story of the day. When we come back, we're going to talk about Harry and Meghan. They've lost their Netflix contract, $100 million down the drain, and they now face financial difficulties. We'll talk about that. Lady C is waiting, ready to dish the, to dish the news on this story. It's quite a big one. They've had this contract, I think, for about 5 years, $20 million a year. It's gone because most of the programmes they delivered have been absolute rubbish, total flops. We'll talk about this after the news, so you better stay tuned.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is...
Welcome back. Now, very special treat for you. We're going to talk about Harry and Meghan. You may have seen in the news, it's official that Netflix, exasperated by a series of absolutely dreadful flops, With Love Meghan, Harry's appalling horse-based docu-soap Polo, massive flop. Netflix have had enough. They pulled the plug. And there will be no more money coming from Netflix towards Harry and Meghan when they come to renewal of their contract time, which is September. It won't happen. It won't happen. So that appears to have gone down the pan. So the big question for them is financially going forward. They live a very, very expensive lifestyle, those two, and we are talking about $4 million a year just to maintain their basic expenses, that huge Montecito mansion, and also just the way they live, private jets, all of that kind of stuff. They are a couple of low-level millionaires, if that, trying to live like high-flying billionaires, and without this massive Netflix contract, you can only imagine what the future might hold for them. Now, let's go over. Now, I did announce that Lady C, our royal commentator, would be joining us to discuss that. Now, that in itself is a treat, but I've got a bigger treat for you. With all due respect to Lady C, it is Meghan Markle's brother, Thomas Markle Jr. So welcome, Thomas, are you there?
Oh, yeah, I'm here. We're ready to go.
And also to Lady C. Hello, Lady C.
Hello, hello. Hello, Tom. How are you?
Well, here we are. So you two are friends, right?
Yeah,
we know each other.
It is so good to see you, and it's been too long since we talked, but it's great to see you. I hope you're well.
Well, look, it's fantastic to have both of you on. Well, let's start with you, ladies first. We'll go to you, though, Tom, if you don't mind. Your thoughts on the fact that your sister, your half-sister, has just lost her $100 million Netflix contract. What do you think?
Well, I think it was inevitable, and I've seen this coming for a long time based on the very few times that I actually watched 5 minutes of 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 episodes, and it just struck me as like completely empty, completely fake, and I knew it was only a matter of time before this would happen.
And come to you in a second, Lady C. Tom, what do you think financially for Harry and Meghan? As I just said, I think everybody knows they're at best low-level millionaires because he's inherited a few bucks from his family. But they've been living life like high-flying billionaires. You know, they got this massive mansion in Montecito. They go everywhere by private jet. They kind of needed this Netflix money. Now that they're not going to have it anymore, that's going to pose some serious financial problems for them, isn't it?
I think the writing is on the wall on this one. I think the world sees this exactly the same. They're living this extravagant lifestyle, pretending that they're just completely irrelevant when it comes to money and spending, like they just have endless amounts, but it's pretty obvious. I mean, staff quitting, staff getting fired continuously. Yeah.
Well, by the way, Tom, thanks very much for staying up because you're over in the Philippines and it's about 4 in the morning for you, so I really do appreciate it. Lady C, basically the same question to you. These people have been relying on this Netflix money. That source of income is going to dramatically dry up very, very soon. The future doesn't look good for them economically, does it?
No, it doesn't. And in fact, if I recall correctly, we have already spoken about this in the past because we have both said that this was coming.
We knew it was coming. We knew it was coming, and now it's come.
No, but it's not a surprise. And also, let's remember the figures bandied about it being 100 million and 20 million per annum. That's always been an overestimation. You know, they have been substantially less well off than they have tried to make out. They were busy bigging themselves up in the hope that if they said they were worth X plus Y, Z would pitch in and offer them something commensurate. And of course, they haven't delivered the goods. And also the deal with Netflix was that Netflix would pay them to produce things. So, and their profits were going to be pegged on what they produced and how well things did. So their payment has never been what people have been making it out to be. And that's why, for instance, when Meghan walks into a room in Montecito, most people clear out of it if they own private planes. And when people who own private planes hear that Meghan is on the phone, they refuse to take her calls. I know this from people who are friends of mine who have places in Montecito and some who have private planes. And she has a reputation for trying to cadge lifts.
Really? That somehow doesn't surprise me. So, Tom, in terms that you and I have discussed in the past, Meghan's programmes, we kind of reviewed together, didn't we, with Love Meghan, her cooking drivel show. That failed to make the top 300 in Netflix's charts. It limped in at a humiliating 383. Meanwhile, Harry's horse-based docu-soap Polo, which was, I did watch it, but it's unwatchable, absolute rubbish. That came in, you're going to like this, in the Netflix charts at 3,436. The truth is, Lady C is right. They had a productivity deal. I don't suppose they ever saw 20 million bucks a year. But the problem with these two is they didn't deliver. Netflix looked at the programs they were giving them and said, this is a pile of crap. We don't want it. That's why their deal has gone down the chute.
Yeah, absolutely. The writing's been on the wall. And exactly what Lady C said, the way Netflix and corporations and networks structure your payments. So, if they want to sit here and boast about a $100 million deal from Netflix for like the last 2 years, that's all we've heard. $100 million, $100 million. It doesn't work that way. You produce, you get this much. You produce, you get this much. You produce, and then when you don't produce, you don't get nothing. So it just all goes away.
From when you were growing up with Meghan, Lady C just talking about her propensity for, shall we say, pretending to be richer than she is, cadging lifts in private jets, maybe sort of acting like it's her private jet. Was she a bit like that as a kid when she was younger? Did she like to sort of play the grand dame, the financial, pretend she was richer and wealthier and a woman of more status than she actually was?
Hold on, Kevin. Correct me if I'm wrong now. We all know Meghan boasted about being poor growing up and rubbing 2 nickels together at the Sizzler salad bar.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah. So, maybe this is a sign of times, because this is usually how karma works. And I've always made jokes about Netflix should produce a new movie called Trading Places 2.0 and have Harry and Meghan, the old movie with Eddie Murphy and what's his Dan Aykroyd.
Dan Aykroyd, yeah. Let me ask you this, Tom. Here's a truism. This is couples with financial difficulties struggle to stay together. Money problems are the worst cloud that can be cast over any relationship. I think these two, I've been saying this for months, have got tremendous financial problems. Going forward, do you fear or do you suspect that this relationship, their royal romance, might suffer?
Oh, 100%. I mean, if you were a fly on the wall in Montecito, I would venture to say that money problems would drive Harry to sleeping in the chicken coop. 70. Absolutely. So,
yeah. And you're with your dad still, aren't you? Have you had a chat with your dad about? I know he's sort of not too well, but how has he received the news that the contract has gone? The Netflix contract has gone.
You know, it was the strangest thing this morning. It sounded like there was like a parade outside, and then I looked on the news, and there was like worldwide celebrations about this cancellation on Netflix. So it's just.
Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe it's going to become a worldwide holiday with paid time off. I don't know, but.
So, how do you think, Tom? Knowing her as you do, how will she be reacting to the news or to the fact that she now knows? Because she's been pretending, hasn't she? Oh, they loved my series with Love Meghan. They've commissioned a second series. No, they didn't. They made 2 series at the same time, and they're going to shove it on in September because they might as well, the second series. So she's always pretended that Netflix love her. It's a fantastic success. How will she be reacting, given that you know what she's like, to the fact that everybody knows now that her Netflix deal was not a success? It's been a disaster.
Well, her PR campaign is so ridiculous. If you ever just take a look, there's 30 or 40 positive posts about how lovely I am. Oh, look at this. Look what I wore here. Oh, I just came out with this. My wine sold out. My jam sold out. Endless every single day. And it's a big charade. It's just a smokescreen because it's obviously like Wag the Dog, the movie. Look over here and don't look what's happening over here in reality. And that's exactly what's happening.
Yeah, because she's been busy. It seems to me the more trouble she gets into, the more problems she encounters, the more pictures of the back of her kids' heads she posts on Instagram. Always the back of the head. No, tantalising pictures of the side of the face and all that. But you're right. A blizzard of family shots now. And you're right. She does that to throw a kind of veil over the truth of what's going on. Lady C, you and I have talked before about this as ever business, selling, it's now Chateau Meg rosé wine, dried flowers, cookie dough. I made the cookie dough once. They were all right, nothing much. And of course the scam jam. I've always said, I don't see this as a billion-dollar business. I don't think it's a very good business at all. I doubt if it's bringing in very much money. What do you think?
No, undoubtedly the figures don't stack up. I think she'd have had to sell several million of one of the items to make it well into 6 figures. That's never going to happen. And also, Netflix was effectively using it as a consignment house where they were fulfilling they would organize the whole thing, and they would get stock brought in and they pay for it, and basically they would fulfill the orders. But because they knew she was unpopular and they knew that she was never going to sell very many, they have always kept the product line very limited so that they could then say it was sold out. Well, if you're making 2,000 instead of 20,000, of course it's going to sell out. But there's no way she's ever going to make real money out of any of this. The best thing she could do would be to link up with some sort of low-grade Chinese clothing company that's going to provide nice knockoffs of Versace, etc. And not serious.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think she might go down the clothes line because I don't. The thing is, Tom, about this business, what I always say, right, so this new Chateau Meg rosé wine, by the way, it's 14.5% alcohol. That's seriously strong for wine. Now
it has been I did hear a couple things here and there. It has been classified as Ripple or Thunderbird.
Yeah, that's right. It's that kind of sort of a street bums booze. But seriously, the way I see this business is she's offering you If you want to buy some of her wine, you have to get 3 bottles. They're $30 a bottle. That's $90 for 3 bottles. That's minimum purchase, plus $20 shipping. So you've got $110. You have to fill the form out, put your credit card in, then wait 3 weeks for it to arrive. Or alternatively, you can go to the grocery store on the corner shop grocery store, and buy a bottle for about $8 in about 5 minutes. Her business model is not good, is it?
Absolutely not. And there's been so many reports out there. I ordered it. It's not coming. It's on back order. Here's your refund. The refund doesn't come. It's a disaster. When you do a business like that, especially online, and you're selling yourself and your brand, it better be top notch. It better be affordable. It better be on time. And your customer service has to be up to par. I mean, I've worked for myself the majority of my life, and my word was my bond. If I say I'm going to show up at a certain time, I am there. And I deliver exactly what I say I'm going to deliver on time.
It's exactly right. Reliability is so important in business. I want to sort of put this question to both of you. We'll answer it one at a time, as it were. Perhaps you first, Lady C. You saw, was it last weekend, the blanket, or was it the week before? I can't remember. The blanket coverage, the embarrassing blanket coverage of these alleged peace talks that started in London, where Meredith Maines, who is Harry and Meghan's chief communications officer in Montecito, flew to London to meet up with their London PR, a guy called Liam Maguire, and then they went to this private members club near Clarence House, where King Charles lives, to meet a guy called Tobin Andre, who's one of the King's trusted courtiers, right-hand men. Now, first of all, this was absolutely shattered. Ridiculously, somebody tipped the press off. So Meredith Maines was pictured getting out of a taxi. Then the 3 of them were pictured on the balcony of this club in the sunshine near Green Park, near Buckingham Palace in London. Now, this has been described as peace talks that were ruined because somebody tipped off the press. Who do you think, Lady C, tipped off the press?
Oh, well, it's obvious who tipped off the press, with due respect. I mean,
who then? Who?
Well, Harry and Meghan's people. Yeah. First of all, how did the journalist know who Meredith Maines was?
I know. Yeah.
So that's the first thing. I mean, I get that a British journalist might have known who Tobin Andre was, and maybe even at a stretch Toby Maguire, who was the
Liam Maguire. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Liam Maguire. Yeah, but to, you know, who knew what she looked like, and then they also knew what time she was arriving, what time he was arriving.
I know.
They were able to run around to Green Park to get them on the balcony.
Exactly right.
It's obvious, and also it doesn't suit the king. And may I make the point that this was not can't have been a reconciliation talks, because those would have involved Sir Clive Alderton, who is the private secretary. Tobin Andre is the communications.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So it's totally about publicity, and the meeting was about the 2 households having to at times interconnect and deal with each other on a civil basis. That's a perfectly. I mean, Kevin, you're a journalist. You know how these things work.
I do. I mean, that was comprehensively leaked to the Mail on Sunday newspaper. Tom, who do you think leaked it?
Carl.
I mean, these are leading questions. I mean, I think, and I know how these things go, and it was comprehensively leaked. It's just ridiculous. You know, we've got Meredith Maines getting out of a taxi, then conveniently the 3 of them sit on this balcony that can be seen from the public Green Park nearby. Photographer, boom, 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 all caught on camera, all over the front page. By the way, there go any chance of any reconciliation, because it was publicised. I think think there's no doubt whatsoever that this leak came from the Sussex side of the fence. What do you think?
I completely believe that. I mean, when I first heard about it, I said there's no way. I don't believe that there's any peace talks or reconciliation in the works. I just don't see it.
No.
I can't. I think it was just another staged, because on Meghan's camp, it was blown up so far out of proportion. Oh yeah, we're talking. Oh, it's going to work out. We're going back to the royal family, and in the public's eye, that's not going to happen.
No. Well, listen, let me put a theory to both of you. A lot of people are talking about this. Maybe you first, Tom. This meeting, it has been suggested. Also, your take on this will be fascinating, Lady C, but I'll ask Tom first. This meeting that happened in this club, it's called the Royal Overseas League Club. £700 a year for membership. Not much of a private members club, bit cheap, he said poshly. But seriously, it has been suggested, Tom, that what this was about was Harry putting out the feelers to see if he can kind of sort something out with his dad, because he wants some money from his father. He wants to be involved in whatever inheritance might come his way, but he might need some short-term cash, which could explain the situation, because Harry might have known they're about to lose the Netflix deal. So do you think it might have been just Harry seeing if he can cash some money out of the bank of dad again?
Absolutely. And I think, the force behind this, in my opinion, I think, if Meghan is running low on money, they are running low on money, she'd be the first one to kick him out the door and say, get back over the pond and start working on this. Get us back in there. We need money. I mean, if you really want to look behind the scenes, that's how I see it.
Yes.
Harry is forced, and Harry is guided, and that's his handler, and he does exactly what she says. And it's so obvious. He has no self-worth in public with her.
Yeah. I agree with you, Tom. What do you think, Lady C? Could this have been, a lot of people are speculating now, a sort of fishing expedition by Harry because he wants to reopen the bank of dad because he needs some money? Do you think that's a possibility? Because I do.
I think it's a remote possibility, but I actually don't think that's the immediate reason. I think the immediate reason was, and I think it was set up by Meghan as opposed to Meghan and Harry, and because she's the brains behind the operations always. And I think she set it up because she was still trying to convince Ted Sarandis, who was trying to convince the board, that, and that maybe they should entertain the possibility of them having a continuing relationship. And may I also make the point that nobody seems to have noticed that Netflix has actually said that they are prepared to deal with them on an ad hoc basis. So if Netflix comes up with something with Meghan, even if she's getting $50,000, she's going to spin around and say, oh, you see, all of you were racist against me, and none of you knew what you were talking about, because you see, I'm still in the Netflix stable. So I think we need to consider. I think that was primarily the main reason, and I think also that had Harry been trying to suck up to his father, he would not have been doing it through Tobin, Andre, and the press section of the operation. He would have been doing it through Clive Alderton, and he would have been doing it through people I know who he knows, who would. But his father has said very plainly, I'm not a bank, and I don't want to be exploited by you, and I don't want to talk to you. I'm not prepared to talk to you until such time as it becomes trustworthy to talk to you. And it's not trustworthy.
Yeah, exactly. Now, Tom, what Lady C is saying, I think is right. I think this leak definitely came from the Sussex side of the fence. There's no doubt whatsoever about it. The King's courtiers are famously discreet. They would never do this. The King, we all know, is absolutely furious about what happened here, that this ended up all over the front pages. What was supposed to be a private meeting turned into an embarrassing international circus, a sort of gossip topic all around the world. The King is furious. Do you feel that Meghan was responsible for this, or do you think it was Harry and Meghan? What do you think is really going on here?
Here's a really good perspective and theory to take into consideration. Being that the Netflix was just completely canceled, okay, this may have been an attempt, like allegedly before, wearing microphones and recording devices at royal events. This could have been another attempt for Harry to go in there wearing a microphone, allegedly, that's been.
Well, I'll tell you what it does do. Or what it has done to the King. It has confirmed his belief that Harry and Meghan are not to be trusted. If you give them any confidential private information, they make it public. They tell People magazine, they tell Page 6, the gossip column in the New York Post, or something like that. Let me ask you, Tom, while I've got you, how's you with your dad? How is he?
One more thing real quick. So what I was saying, this may have been one more grasp at a straw attempt to save their Netflix deal by securing this secret meeting. Hence, what will not happen. So,
very interesting idea that. But anyway, how is your dad, mate?
Dad's in good spirits. He's doing all right. I was going to do a little birthday special for him the other day on my YouTube channel, but yeah, we'll just leave that alone. He's, when he wants to come out, he comes out, and
okay, good. But you're both having a nice time out there, yeah?
Yeah. Well, he just mentioned to me that he wants to get over to London and the UK and
well, come and see us. Come on, you two, come and see us. We'd love to see you. Let's get together soon. A last thought from you, Lady C. Where do they go from here? As I say, where's the money coming in? Because Harry, it seems to me, is basically doing nothing, and she's running around like a sort of blue backside fly, really, really frantic activity, but no real money coming in. They're going to hit the wall, aren't they?
Didn't he just walk through a minefield for some donations?
Yeah. He went. Yes, he went. No, it wasn't for a donation. He went to follow in his mother's footsteps, Princess Di, to go and see landmines in Angola. It was all a bit odd, not quite sure why he did it, except to remind us, Lady C, that he is Princess Diana's mother, and as far as he's concerned and Meghan's concerned, the connection to Diana adds up to money, right?
That's absolutely right. And I mean, Meghan has considered herself to be a financial genius, but everything except the book didn't flop. And the book didn't flop, his book didn't flop, her book flopped, and their show didn't flop, but everything else has flopped, and everything else will continue to flop, because really Meghan is of absolutely no interest to anybody. She's dull, she's boring, she's talentless, and she's very off-putting as a personality. And he, on his own, is more appealing, but as soon as he's around her, he's like a damp squib. So I really don't see what's going to, well, maybe she'll have to move on to Elon Musk.
Yeah, well, Elon Musk. There's talk she might even go back to acting. She's going to have to try something, because I don't think As Ever's going to work. No more Netflix money. Last question to you, Tom. If heaven forbid you were in Meghan's company now, what would you say to her?
I don't know. I've thought about that, and I don't know what would transpire and what would come to the surface if we were ever face to face in person and talking. I don't think that's ever going to happen, because in that type of a person, that's not feasible for them to to ever acknowledge any wrongdoing. So I don't know. That's a tricky question. But I mean, if she were here, I would just say, I told you so.
I'll tell you what, Tom, I know what you can do. Enter the Philippines lottery, win about sort of $10 billion. She'll be in touch with you. Trust me.
Yeah.
She's mending all the bridges then, yeah?
Oh, I'm so sorry, Tom. I love you. You're my own brother. Can I borrow some money?
Exactly. So that's what you should do. Listen, both of you, special thanks to you, Tom, for staying up so late. And keep in touch whenever you come into London. Well, we'll talk about that. And Lady C, it's always such a pleasure to have you on the show. What a great half an hour that was. Thank you both very, very much. The incomparable Lady C and the remarkable Thomas Markle Jr., Meghan's brother, on the news that the gruesome twosome Harry and Meghan, the Sussexes, the dismal Duke and the difficult Duchess, have lost their $100 million Netflix contract. It's all over now, baby blue. Let me know what you think if you want. 03444991000. Let's go to break. When we come back, lots of calls, lots of messages. Let's get cracking.
Breaking news this morning revealed that under the Terrorist Act, 242 people were arrested in the year to June of this year.
That's something you can indulge in as to all the people who aren't going to prison because, well, there's no prison spaces.
So this is a talk exclusive we've been looking at.
I said, you take these cuffs off me and speak to me like a human being rather than a common criminal.
You're just left wondering, does these people who lead us actually hate Britain? Yeah. Do they not love our country and everything that we've stood for?
Across the UK. Across the UK. On DAB+. On your smart speaker. On your smart TV. And on your side.
Welcome back. Go to the phones in just a second. Here's a text from Jane in Wigan. She says, evening, Kev. On the subject of the Union Jack dress, there was never an issue with Jerry Halliwell wearing one in the days of the Spice Girls. Good point, Jane. Mind you, there never seemed to be an issue with being British, proud and patriotic all those years ago. Now, it seems to be something we should be ashamed of. Exactly right. What a state this country is in. Great show, thank you. Keep highlighting the failures of this government. This country needs waking up, is waking up. I think you're right. That's a really good phrase. People are waking up to the sheer hell we have been plunged into by the most incompetent, useless government anyone can ever remember. Just dreadful. What a mess. We've got lots of WhatsApp voice notes. Let's play one. James on migrant hotels.
Hi, Kib. As a Tower Hamlet resident, I'm fuming. 400 illegal migrants going to be moved into the Britannia Hotel, and our MP, who's suspended from the Labour Party, she says Tower Hamlet's residents welcome migrants. No, we don't. What we'd welcome is some police round here. That's what we would welcome.
James here, that would be Diane Abbott. I mean, you know, really not speaking for her constituents. They're not welcome. People are sick of this. We've had enough of the migrant crisis. We've had enough of all these asylum seekers being plunged into areas foisted upon unsuspecting citizens. They've had enough. The whole country is in a state of despair. We're not going to take this anymore. We're really not. Let's quickly play Dave on protests.
Good evening, Kevin. Mariner, Stormer, and Rachel Thieves, the three amigos. They haven't got a clue how to govern this country. And it shows the police, they haven't got a clue. Busing demonstrators to confrontation with other demonstrators, that's not their job. Oh, my blood boils, Kevin. My blood boils.
Well, me too, Dave. Everybody's blood is boiling. Let's quickly go to the phones. Let's talk to Grace in London. You want to talk about Meghan Markle? Grace, what would you like to say?
Well, various things. I mean, I think personally that as nuts as it sounds, I feel that God offers us reconciliation and forgiveness, though we don't deserve it. So I think that as humans, if we can aim for reconciliation, that's a good thing. So if Harry can get on side with his dad and make up, that
doesn't seem to be happening, though, does it, Grace?
But I, as a member of the public, I feel frustrated because I think that there was in my mind a hope that when Meghan joined the royal family, it would mean that since she'd been an advocate for World Vision, which helps some of the world's very poorest people, you know, people who could only dream of food banks because they're literally starving, as well as some people who are in modern slavery. It does some really great work. She's been an advocate for them, so I thought we'll have someone in the royal family who's sticking up for some of these people and raising the profile of these people, and yet ultimately she used her Netflix show.
Yeah, what's she ever done for those people? It's all very well to be an advocate, but what has she actually ever done?
Well, indeed. I mean, their organisation, Harry and Meghan's organisation, has, used, well, there have been some photo opportunities, and the thing with Harry visiting Angola last week did seem very much to be a photo opportunity.
It was a photo op,
I'm just thinking, if you have a Netflix deal, why not use, if you care about those people, and I thought that maybe they did, I just kept thinking, it seems to me such a shame they didn't use their Netflix deal to talk about some of these issues in our world that I thought, you know, deserve more attention. Instead, Meghan was just showing off how nice her house is. And
making rubbish home cooking dishes that look like rainbows, and also, of course, there was Harry's awful polo series. I mean, when you say the thing about this couple is, I don't know them, thank God, but they care so much about the world and all this kind of. Do they really? Isn't it justified to conclude, looking at their narrative, looking back on the past few years, that the only thing both of them care about is themselves?
Well, that's kind of the impression I've got.
It's the impression I've got, particularly her.
I try not to be too cynical, but I just think if I was in that position and I had a deal with Netflix or I had a deal with Spotify, then I wouldn't just be talking to celebrities. I would be talking about these things in our world that don't get enough attention, where we could be making an impact. They could be making an impact for some of the people in our world who are in the greatest need, but they seem to want to talk more about cozying up to rich people, and I just thought it seems like a shame, because I'd hoped that they would do something really good for our world.
Yeah, well,
I think I'm disappointed.
I think a lot of us did, Grace, yes, there's a sense of disappointment. I mean, don't forget, this was this couple, Archwell Foundation, we're going to make the world a better place, we're going to do good all over the globe, and what have they ended up making? Scam jam and selling wine, and dried flowers. That's not changing the world, that's just trying to make a few bucks out of people who are stupid enough to go and want to buy something just because it's got Meghan's name on it. I mean, good luck with that. But, they haven't done anything. It's all a fraud. It's all about them as far as I'm concerned. I agree with you, Grace. That's a good call. Thank you very much for ringing. Grace in London there. Let's go to break. When we come back, more of your messages, more phone calls, more WhatsApp voice notes. Stick around.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yeah, Petra will be in just a little while, towards 10 o'clock, to tell you what she's got lined up for you from 10 p.m. until 1 a.m. into the small hours. So we'll find out about that in just a few minutes. But here's a quick note from Daisy, a text. I said I wasn't one of those presenters who read out notes that are all nice about them, but I am a bit, aren't I? This one says, I watch... Liar. I watch your show all the time. You do an amazing job. Thank you. Thank you very much, Ivy. No, Ivy says, I think the police chief constable in Essex has to go. I think he was trying to incite a riot so that Keir can stand on his podium and spout the same rubbish as he did about the Southport riots. I'm not sure it goes like that, but certainly I think that might be the sequence of events that, you know, so you set your watch by it. Fairly soon he'll be standing there going to far-right thugs, these aren't protesters, far-right thugs, without once addressing the real cause of these problems, just like it was last summer, will be this summer. It's the migrant crisis and his failure, his abject failure to get anywhere near even beginning to deal with it. It's a disaster, folks. So I think you're right there, Ivy. Let's have another WhatsApp voice note. This is Gareth on the protests.
I've just got a question. Speaking as a former police officer, if what the head of Essex Police is saying is true and it is the local commanders that made the decision, wouldn't they be guilty of breaching the peace, common law?
Oh, that's interesting, Gareth, and you obviously know your onions, a former copper. All I would say is that I thought it's extraordinary when he said, oh, so you know, it wouldn't be right for me to comment on what happened there. Well, yeah, you're the chief constable. The buck stops with you, mate. It would be right for you to comment. It would be right for you to look into what went wrong here, because something went wrong. We had a caller earlier on kind of confirming what Mr. Harrington said, that maybe they didn't drive these left-wing thugs into the middle of the protest, but they certainly escorted them there, and maybe they drove them there, because our caller couldn't see everything. We certainly had witnesses saying they were driven there, but either way they were escorted there, and they go, oh, well, the most important job of the police is to facilitate the public's right to protest. No, it isn't. The basic sacred duty of the police is to keep the peace, to keep people safe. And escorting or driving left-wing anti-racist thugs looking for a fight into the middle of a peaceful protest staged by local people, that isn't keeping the peace, is it, folks? It's doing exactly the opposite. Absolute disgrace. Let's quickly have another WhatsApp voice note. This is Gareth again on the protests. Oh, Steve, sorry.
Good evening, Kev. Is it to cause mass disruption? Isn't that tantamount to inciting civil war on the masses? Really, Starmer now, his position is untenable because he is actually toxic. He is toxic in the country. He's hated. He could be the first Prime Minister to be airlifted out of Downing Street for his own safety at this rate. It's absolutely crazy.
Well, maybe get one of these police vans to give him a lift. They're always available for him. He's left-wing. They like ferrying left-wing people around. So there you go, Keir. That's your escape route. Get the coppers to drive you to safety. Here's a quick message from Luke. He says, what we should all do once these hotels go back to normal and these hotel owners need our business, we should just boycott them. They may think twice about opening their doors to migrants in the future. Well, yeah, but you know, let's face it, when are they going back to normal? Anytime soon? Doesn't look like it, does it? Hundreds more came across this week, by the way. Still they come. We're discussing all this. They're still coming across. Keir Starmer totally incapable of even beginning to deal with this crisis. It's pathetic and it's extremely worrying. Let's go to Paula from High Barnet. Hi, Paula.
Hello, good evening. Hi. So this morning, I love your show, by the way.
Thank you very much.
So this morning I was on my way to work and I woke up Tottenham Court Road. And of course, now and again I see regular faces, you know, they're homeless.
Yeah.
There was a young man I had never seen before right outside of Tesco.
Yeah.
So I stopped and had a little chat with him and said, look, I don't have any change.
Yeah.
would you like me to buy you something to eat? And he was very grateful. And before I hopped off to do this, I had a little chat with him. And he was from Manchester.
Mm-hmm.
He was quite young. And it was heartbreaking because I said to him, well, he's looking to get back up to Manchester. And I said, well, how did you find yourself down here? And he did go mental health, but it was just this, it was just...
This guy's a British citizen living on the streets, like so many military veterans. And you're right about Tottenham Court Road. It's full of tents now. It's like a sort of campsite, isn't it?
Yeah. And so anyway, I had a little chat with him. He wasn't military, but he did mention he was young. He was under 30. And he had a very strong northern accent, so I knew maybe Manchester way.
Right.
And he was from Salford, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Media City. He probably used to work for the BBC. No, I'm just joking.
I used to work there, actually.
Yeah. I did too.
So I felt my heart felt for him, and I wish I could have just said, "Here's a ticket, get yourself back home," But I don't carry cash.
You see,
because
what's annoying about this, what's infuriating about this, Paula, is here's a British citizen. Sounds like a nice guy. Obviously, suffered problems and ends up on the street. Meanwhile, people from abroad, Middle East, Afghanistan, places like that, Syria, they got onto an illegal boat. They cross the channel illegally. They break into our country illegally. They don't have to live on the streets because we put them in £400 a night hotels that they don't have to pay for. That's what's annoying about this.
Yeah, and that's what so when I came home and I saw the news, and I saw them bringing in the sealed, brand new or freshly clean mattresses, my heart sunk because I thought, here they are, they're doing top-notch quality accommodation, and we can't help our own. And the other thing I wanted to say is, and I know I've got my own theory about the whole migration thing. I can't help but think. So in the 90s, we had the Eastern Europeans. They were cheap labour. Yeah. Now they've all wised up. They're well-read and educated. And they've gone back home. Yeah. We need the next batch. And I have to say, I'm fed up with politicians and other people in a position of high positions, financially or whatever, using this as a humanitarian. How I see it is they're using cheap labour under the disguise. Well, yeah, I think that certainly the legal migrant crisis we have, which is massive. In the past, not so long ago, 1 million legal migrants being allowed into the country on visas. That was all about cheap labour, and continues to be about cheap labour, and that they say that's good for the economy, but it's not. You're right, Paula. Listen, I've got to move on because I've got to take some other calls, but good to talk to you. Thank you very much for a good call. Quick WhatsApp voice note. Here's Scott on Labour.
Evening, Kev. You can be an extremely educated person, but you can still be thick as two short planks. And that's what we've got running the country. Educated people that are so stupid. The Foreign Secretary, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, the Prime Minister, all the police, all the people that are supposed to take care of this country, govern it, secure it, protect it. They're all a bunch of morons, mate. Very educated, but dumb as... Oh, I don't know, mate. What are we going to do?
Well, Scott, I couldn't agree with you more. Passing a few exams, doing well at Oxford or wherever, that doesn't make you necessarily all that bright. It means you can pass exams. Nothing. Keir Starmer strikes me as one of those people. He can pass exams, but has he got any real kind of intelligence? I don't think so. He certainly hasn't got any emotional intelligence. Let's go to break. When we come back, we'll take a call from Laura Jane in Hampshire. Stay where you are, Laura Jane.
Some breaking news this morning revealed that under the Terrorist Act, 242 people were arrested in the year to June of this year.
Something you can indulge in as to all the people who aren't going to prison because, well, there's no prison spaces.
So this is a Talk exclusive we've been looking at.
I said, you take these cuffs off me and speak to me like a human being rather than a common criminal.
You're just left wondering, does these people who lead us actually hate Britain?
Yeah.
Do they not love our country and everything that we've stood for?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Last WhatsApp voice note, Pete, on the doctor's strike.
Make those junior doctors pay back all the money that it's cost the taxpayer to train them over the years. Plus, golden handcuff them to the NHS so that they can't go and pull this stunts every time they want more money. They're just being greedy. Hippocratic oath seems to mean nothing to them these days, does it? Do no harm. Doesn't really matter now, does it? Because even if one person suffers harm because they're out on a picket line, they should lose their licence to practice medicine anyway, because they're not doing what they said they were going to do. It's just a job to them now, isn't it? Not some sort of vocation.
I totally agree. Yeah, I mean, the patients are going to die because of these strikes. What kind of doctors sanction that, eh? Let's go to Laura Jane in Hampshire. Hello, Laura Jane.
Hi there. Now everybody's saying, great show, Kev.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's required. I don't let anybody come on the show unless they say great show to me, yeah?
Definitely got that feeling.
Thank you.
Tonight. Basically, I wanted to say that the Starmer and Harmer, Mr. whatever he's called, Harmer's view of just let's destroy Britain.
Richard Harmer, Lord Richard Harmer, yes.
Exactly.
Hermer is his name, yeah.
That's it, Hermer.
Yeah.
He's rubbing his hands in glee, whatever, the Attorney General, because this business of the left-wingers being bussed in, I am absolutely convinced that that's what happened in Stockport, and I think it's happening again. It's back to divide and rule, make everybody hate each other.
Well, I'll tell you what's interesting, Laura Jane. A police investigation subsequent to the Southport riots and the other riots that unfolded across the country, mostly in the north last summer, revealed that nobody was transported in. They actually said that was a kind of fiction that was propagated. Now, Keir Starmer spent the entire time, these people are being bussed in, they're being transported in, they're talking on their phones and they're sorting it. Well, it turned out that was absolute claptrap, not true. So right-wing far-right thugs, as he likes to go on about, were not shipped into these riots. It was local people. What we now know in terms of Epping, at least, is left-wing thugs were transported in. They came by train, and then, according to some reports, the police drove them into the middle of the protests. Either they did that or they escorted them into the middle of the protests, or they did both. Either way, the police, I say, should not have left those left-wing people anywhere near the protest, because that was a guaranteed ignition point that's caused that unpleasant disturbance.
I mean, this is me being your friendly conspiracy theorist, but I do believe that the left-wingers were, buff made. We didn't.
Well, they do. They're travelling troublemakers. That's what they do.
Yeah, but
they go around in their masks and they're, refugees welcome as if they're really nice people. No. They go to these places to have fights, to have punch-ups, to cause trouble. That's what they're really all about.
The real protesters look like what, in inverted commas, right-wing thugs. That's what I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's slightly conspiracy theory-ish, but I know where you're coming from, Laura Jane. It's a good point. I've got to move on. The show's almost over, but thank you for calling. Call me again, and very quickly, because he's been waiting. Let's talk to John in Cornwall. Hello, John.
Hi, Karen. What I'd like to say very quickly is that British people don't have to protest, don't have to riot. All they have to do is stop paying their council tax. If all the British people stop paying their council tax, there's no way they can punish them, because the courts don't have time, and the country would grind to a halt within a month.
Yeah, but then again, well, why don't we not sort of get arrested or sent to prison or something if we didn't pay our council tax?
There's nowhere to put them because they said all the prisons are full, the courts are full, and just the threat of that,
Well, maybe the threat of it. I don't. You know, I mean, I like the idea in principle. I like the idea of wide-scale civil disobedience as long as it doesn't involve breaking the law or violence or anything like that. I like the idea of serious protest to register our dismay about this abysmal government, their incompetent ideological foolishness. I'd like the idea of that. But what you're suggesting, John, sadly, is against the law.
The migrants that are coming here, they don't pay council tax.
Yeah, I know, but I know. It's very annoying. They don't even pay for their hotels. We pay for their hotels, but you know, we have to pay our council tax, and you can't not pay it because that's against the law. You see what I mean?
I turn around and I can say I haven't paid it for years because I don't exist.